We're back.
We're back. And welcome to the podcast. One of my new favorite YouTubers, actually. I have been like heartily binge watching your channel. I actually am going to bring up some deep cuts from your channel.
Kiss ass. Kiss ass, bro.
I'm not even, I'm like, I don't even, maybe that makes me a kiss ass, but I was like, oh, dude, some of these are so good. But anyway,
Dude,
Trey, the Explainer. Thank you.
Sorry, I was about
us.
to interrupt before you fucking even mentioned just here. I'm gonna kiss ass even more, bro. I do like a lot. Harris and I both doodle, but I was like doing a lot of animation stuff this past month, so I like really needed shit to watch. And I must have watched this video 4 or 5 times, and I didn't even realize it was yours till today. Because I was like, really? I should refresh myself on some of Trey's stuff. Because I've seen a lot of your dino vids, and I know Harris and I both have this like autism with animals and stuff, so I know we're gonna get heavy into that. But I had watched this video like 4 or 5 times without realizing it's yours. But the archeology iceberg.
Oh yeah, that's
dude, that is banger.
That is a
banger, bro. Yeah. Dude, it's such a nice mix of like, not fake history, but like legends. Like some of the stuff was just kind of like, just like hearsay, but then like also like real historical shit. Like it's a very good video.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me just throw that out there. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. No, that was like just a random by chance video that I made. There's some that like I planned for like years, or not years, but like months in advance. And then there's some that I'm just like, oh, I'll just throw this together because it's like a trend. And, dude, and that paid off.
I really think it's kind of like, just as a dude, we're kind of like drawn to that type of stuff. Because I was rewatching it today, and my roomie, who's a chick, was like, I don't get the appeal of this. What is an iceberg history? What is this? And I was like, you just don't understand. You just don't understand, dog.
I love that archaeology iceberg video. Actually, I was going to ask you, and you kind of just made quick mention of it, but like, what is usually the process when you start a video? Like, how long does it take you? Because the research gets really in depth. Like, it seems like it would be really involved to make a video. Like,
or are you just reading Wikipedia? Give us the secret. Give us behind the scenes.
Wikipedia is good. Wikipedia is sometimes a good starting place for finding sources. Mm-hmm. If you want to look at like the citations and stuff. But like the process that I make a video, it's like, I don't know, I read a lot of like books and stuff, and I'll like encounter something I find interesting.
Oh, we got a smart guy. A smart guy.
You know, I go to the library from time to time. That's the perks of being at the university. It's like you get the free library.
That is
like the ancient, what books from like the 1800s and stuff. It's awesome.
The tomes.
Tomes. They have like these big, massive ass books. They're awesome.
Yeah.
And so like I'll find something that interests me and then be able like to link it to something else. And then try to make it like, I don't know, not topical, but like interesting to like the common person, I guess, or somebody who's like not like super like into like not super like a scholar in archaeology or history or paleontology.
I mean, I think you do a good job with that. Like, I think you take stuff that is kind of like is pretty in depth and crazy, but you make it very palatable and straightforward. And you've been at it a while too. Some of the videos that I was looking at on your channel are like 7 or 8 years old, which I was like, damn. And it's funny, like, I'm sure you recognize this about your own videos too, but it's funny to flip. Like, when I was watching your videos, I was watching a Mothman one. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's a great video. I was watching that one. I was like, damn, this is dope. But that one is from like 6 or 7 years ago, and it feels only slightly, but like the flavor of your videos have changed a little bit. Like, that one was almost more lighthearted and like conversational, and I think that what you're putting out now feels even more kind of like 2 feet on the ground, like informational, which is cool. Both of them are cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No, it's funny like how long I've been at it for, because like there's some videos that are kind of gone because they're bad. They're just terrible. And some of the old fans might know them because I started, when did I start, like 2013 or something? So like there's some 9-year-old content there too.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I know. And yeah, so it's like funny that like because you're right that like in some respects like I haven't changed too much from like those original ones, just like I guess my audio quality got better and stuff. Yeah, no, and then you're right that like I feel like I've matured a little bit. Like I know, like some of my more recent videos get a little bit more serious and stuff. Yeah, but there's still, I don't know, it's fun. It's cool seeing that development over years.
It is fun.
Dude,
I
I
was.
was
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm gonna step over Harris
No, no,
and
I've
you,
been asking
Trey,
so many questions.
throughout
That's
this
it. Go
whole
ahead.
thing. That's like my thing. That's what the cold cuts people like, me interrupting everyone. Dude, I was shocked because, well, I guess not shocked, but I was very curious whether, because I know a lot of people who do stuff in your vein of YouTube, it's kind of like, it's just an interest they have. They don't really have a background. But you were telling us before I hit record that you kind of have like a background with this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like when I started, I didn't have a background because I was like a kid.
Oh, did you choose your I don't know if I'm doxing your majors, so I won't say them, but did you choose your major based on the response you got to these videos, or was it just always an interest?
It's always been an interest like since I was a little kid. So like that's cool. I can tell I think I've mentioned my majors on my channel. So I'm a genetics and then anthropology major or two double major. And
Anthropology is the one about feet, right?
yeah, in part, feet are definitely a part of it.
Hell yeah.
There are like I think there are like anthropologists who focus on like the evolution of feet. Where did the big toe come in and that kind of stuff?
They
So
have to
they're
have a
wrong.
foot fetish. There's no way you
Yeah.
just like pick that. Yeah.
There's like they study like the footprints of like ancient humans, and they're like, oh yes, look, the shape is somewhat different. That's the evolution of the human foot. The toe got bigger. Yeah, you're right. They got to have something going on there.
Yeah.
Anthropology, it's like I guess it's a very broad field where it's just like the study of people, and
Mhm.
you can be all kinds of branches. I'm more in like the archaeology branch.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I've done a grand total of like one dig site so far.
Oh, dude, that's sick.
That's dope.
Did you
Where'd
guys find
it?
anything?
Yeah, like it was in Poland, and we were like salvaging. So like a farmer had like it was in his field, and he had like a his like plow had went through, and he discovered that there were a whole bunch of like human bones in his
Oh,
field. And he was like,
bro.
Oh.
and you can see that the site where like you can see where his plow came in because it's visible in the dirt, and like it just like it smashed like several skeletons. It was a
Oh,
very
damn.
unlucky, I guess,
Holy
because
shit.
we wouldn't have known about it if not. But yeah, and so we were part of a team, and it was like more like for students, kind of like learning how to do archaeology. And so we were salvaging the bones because they would have been destroyed otherwise. Yeah, and it was a medieval cemetery, and
Oh,
yeah,
that's sick, dude.
What?
yeah. I got my own skeleton that I was like examining.
They
Like,
let you just take shit
Holy
home?
shit.
oh no, I didn't just no.
It's
Like it
yeah, I
goes
got
to
it
the
with me.
university or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like
That's
everyone
awesome,
grab your
though.
favorite piece and you can take it home. Do you know
Man,
anything? I'm assuming like when the farmer found this, did he think it was like a murder?
that's what I was
Because that would
gonna
be my
ask.
immediate
Well,
thought. Yeah.
my question is like maybe it's a stupid question, but like how there must have been some middleman. Like he probably called the police first and was like,
That's
"I just
dude,
found a
yeah.
crime scene," and then the cops got there and they're like, "Actually, these bones are thousands of years old." So, and
I don't
then
think the
what's
cops would be able to tell, would they?
well, yeah. Well, I was wondering, like, do you know what the process looks like for that? Like,
There have been like some like archaeological discoveries where like they do like people who find it do call the cops like Otzi the Iceman, who's like pretty famous.
oh
Okay,
yeah,
I thought you were talking
They
about
like
goatsy, which
Goatsy.
I don't want to talk about.
oh god,
Otzi, he's like a mummy in the Alps, and he was like so well preserved that people were like, "This is a like a hiker who like froze to death up here." And I guess they weren't wrong. It was just a different time period that they
yeah,
were referring
that's
to.
crazy. Yeah,
Uh, yeah, you're right. I should have asked about that. Because it was once like a town. The site was once a town. It was called oh gosh, I should really remember my Polish here. Gotch, something like that.
Gotch.
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 Or it's close to like the Polish word for panties. Apparently, that's what our
Oh,
like
baby.
probably it must be gooch.
Yeah.
gooch, gooch.
Yeah.
And it was like on the map. It was like you could find it on like old maps from like the 1700s. So like I think they kind of vaguely knew that there was something here. but like, yeah, it wasn't anything for certain. And they'd been doing it a couple of years before I showed up. So like, I could email them and see like what happened. Like, it's funny, the site isn't like, when you think of like an archaeological site, you typically think of like Indiana Jones. It's
Yeah.
like this like walled off area, excavations. I guess like Egypt is what most people think of.
Yeah.
Um, Here it was like not walled off at all. Like the locals will just were walking up and like there was a guy walking his dog. There was like this big fat Polish guy that came over and was like, oh, like he would start talking Polish, and we like didn't know what he was saying. And he was like pointing and stuff. We're like, we don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
That's awesome. That must have been such a cool fucking experience too. I can't imagine like it just being like, holy shit, I'm handling bones from like a medieval person. What were you able to determine from the bones, like based on your study at the time?
Oh yeah, like so each one of us got like our own skeleton that we got to like excavate, and then like you take the bones and study them and measure them and stuff. In mine, I kind of got lucky. Mine was like the most intact one at the site, and it was a like his name was Grave 52, and it was a well, here's the thing: is we don't actually know what sex it was, like if it was male or female.
Oh, really?
I thought archaeologists could tell. I thought
It's
that was
really
obvious.
hard. It's like the thing is we had two professors and they like argued over it. Like they didn't like a lot of it is like measuring like the mastoid process and like your skull or the hips. We could have done like the pelvis and stuff, but the pelvis was kind of damaged. So like it was kind of hard to use that.
Interesting.
And so like with it's like you're right that like most people think it's like very like for certain, like it's like, oh yeah, this is a male skeleton or a female skeleton, but it's like actually like you rank things on like a gradient of like 1 to 5, and then you look at your rankings by the end. You're like, okay, this the mastoid process is a 5, like 5 as in like very male, 1 as is in like very female. And then by
Mastoid's
the end
the
of it,
jaw.
yeah, it's in the
Okay.
jaw. It's like kind of close to your ear. That's just like one thing. Like, oh gosh, I need my book, my little bone manual. And like you rank it by the end, and then sometimes you'll end up with like 2, 3, 2, 4, like all this like middle of the road stuff. So like you don't know. You're just like, this could be like a very like neutral. Like I don't know. It's hard to like you need DNA to really get for certain if a skeleton's male or female most of the time.
Interesting. It's
Yeah.
crazy some of the reconstructive shit that they have in museums where like we found this skeleton that's from like early human, and then with scientists were able to reconstruct this like the face of this half monkey, half human, type creature. And
My
it's
ex-wife.
yeah, exactly. It's like some of that shit is properly insane. I know some of it has to be a little bit of guessing, but it is pretty insane, like the way that they can predict some of that shit. Maybe I shouldn't say it's guessing.
No, you're good. I was gonna say I'm gonna save my rant for that on the next segment because I want to scare Trey off. Yeah, when I'm a little drunker and I can go a little more ham. But to preface this thing that I want to bring up, you said yours was the most intact, correct?
Yeah.
How complete of a skeleton did you find?
Oh, I'd have to like look at the number. Like we had almost everything.
It was a fully intact, like full, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what was weird is that like the foot was like the foot of it was really like the one thing that was kind of messed up was the pelvis and foot area. Like the foot was like placed in between like the legs of like separated, like floating in between the legs. Like something happened in between when it was buried, when the person was buried. Like there must have been some disturbance or something, and it got jumbled. That part got jumbled, but the rest of it was pretty intact. Like we had the hyoid bone, which is like in your like it's like what your tongue's attached to, I think. And that like almost never survives because it's so fragile. We got pretty lucky with this one. Yeah, and you could like there are other details that we could like talk about, like they were really ripped. They had like really, really strong arms.
Oh,
like
really?
Yeah, like the muscle attachments, like the radial tuberosity, and like your forearm and stuff. Like if you work it a lot, it gets bigger. Like it shows
this
wear
is
and tear.
a bone?
Yeah, it's a part of a bone. It's part of like your radius. And also like they were working their forearms so much that like there was like the bone was rubbing on bone and it was like smooth. Like it was so smooth that it was like shiny and like made like a glare.
Damn.
So this person was like doing a lot of like forearm manual labor, which was kind of crazy.
That's
Like a
pretty
lot,
crazy.
like ripped. And they also had bowed legs, like their femurs were bowed. So it meant that like they're kind of warped a little bit and they're riding horses a lot. So this is just a couple details that we got out of it.
I'm like trying to imagine like what was the career path of this person that they're like bow-legged, ripped forearms. Like what was like what were they doing? I'm like
Because I
trying
was
to rack my
gonna,
brain.
I'd say they were probably like a farmer if they had strong
That
forearms.
probably makes sense.
But then
Yeah.
if they were riding a horse, though, isn't that like a more nobleman type thing? This is
Yeah.
me speaking with zero IQ, totally
No, like
stupid.
horseback riding, that was kind of like a more elite practice. And like in order to like do it that much to get bowing of like the femurs, that means that like they either like grew up young doing it or they just did it a lot. And like even like the face of the skull was like actually like distinct from other ones at the site. Like the nose, like it would be easier if I had a photo. I don't know if I'm allowed to share photos though.
Yeah,
Where like the nose of the individual was like super, super long. They looked very like Northern European, like in like their skull shape.
interesting.
Which contrasted a lot of the people at the site who looked more like Eastern European in their skull. So it might have been like a migrated person too. We don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is some cool stuff. It was fun. It was like, and that was like a month and a half while I was there, and a lot happened.
Let me ask you this. Is there like in the field of anthropology or archaeology, are there um is there like drama? Like is there somebody that's like do you ever see news stories breaking or things happening where you see the information that's on display and you're like, that's such a crock of shit, or you know what I mean? Like does that happen, or do you feel like it's a pretty rock solid, no pun intended, like field at this point?
Oh no, there's a lot of there's a ton of archaeology drama. There's so much. Like I don't know, it's very petty, like sometimes, like especially between a lot of like the elite kind of scholars that have like these very firm like timelines for when these events happened or when these trends happened, and like they're pretty mean about it too. Like I was talking about like how like the two professors were fighting about like the sex of the skeleton, and
Yeah.
they were like, "No, you're stupid. That's a four. That's definitely a four. How did you rank that as a three? You idiot." They didn't say idiot, but like it
It was
was like
implied.
it was implied. Like it was a little drama. And then like between like scholars when you write papers, oh my gosh, there's like a lot. Like there's a huge um sort of like debate between like archaeologists from like the 60s and 70s versus like the archaeologists from like the 90s and 2000s.
Hmm.
Because like the 60s and 70s archaeologists were like kind of new age, like they're like I'd have to find like the word for it. There's like all these like words in archaeology to describe these like trends. They're like more focused on like humans have individuality and can control their own destiny and stuff like that. And individuals have emotions and all that. But there's also like ones who are very like, no, they're trapped in like their way, their genetics and their way of how they do things. Yeah, there's like, I don't know, it's a very like diverse field of like people and ideas and stuff.
Hmm.
And sometimes it can be a little crazy. I'm thinking of like who's because like there's like actual archaeologists and then there's like the crazy people, you know,
Yeah.
like the ancient aliens kind of like people.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Bro,
know
that stuff's real.
you
That
make
stuff's
mention
real.
of the
uh-oh.
ancient alien guys a bit. Like, yeah, I know you talk about them sometimes in your videos. Like I
I do
watched
talk
one,
shit
and
too.
I know I was watching one about the reptilian people, like reptilian humanoids, and
Yeah.
you make mention of the ancient aliens guy like a few times in
Bro,
there,
again, both of those things are real.
which is real.
Oh no.
Well, actually, here I could reframe my question a bit, maybe in a way that's like more specific, but like, is there actually somebody that you admire in the field of archaeology who's actually considered a little bit of a like crackpot
Hmm,
otherwise?
that's a good question. Um, I like I guess I like Schliemann a little bit. I admire Schliemann. He's
Schliemann?
That's a real name.
Fill me in on the Schliemann lore. I'm
Heinrich
not aware of
Schliemann.
him.
He's the guy that I brought him up in the iceberg video. He's the archaeologist that archaeologists love to hate. Like
Okay.
he's this guy from like the late 1800s who like found like was able to find. He was essentially just a rich guy who had a lot of money and loved like
Oh,
history.
I do remember this. Okay.
Yeah, like he gets a lot of crap, and rightly so, because he was pretty bad. He looted stuff. He like exploded stuff and all that. He had a
Okay.
passion. I don't know. He was very passionate about his history, and he did some good research. There's a good little bit of good stuff. But archaeologists love to shit on him because he like I don't know archaeology in like the late 1800s and like early 1900s is so bad and like funny because like people just pocketed stuff and like wore it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, dude, it's crazy to think that it feels like even just in my even just in my lifetime, I'm 27 and sorry, I just turned 28. But I feel like in the last like 10 years is when it became accepted that dinosaurs had feathers. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the way that dinosaurs looked on the VHS tapes that I watched as a kid is like not the way that they're drawn now. And I fucking love like paleo art. Like I follow a ton of accounts on Instagram and on Twitter that are like paleo art accounts and so much good shit. But they all depict dinos with feathers now, which it wasn't like that when I was a kid. They were all bald, you know,
Bald and
scaly,
beefy, bro.
bald and beefy. Yeah, I like them both.
It's been cool seeing that like development because I remember like 10 years ago or 9 years ago, whenever I started, like there was like this big debate on like feathers versus scales between like dinosaur fans and like everybody like would like I don't know, it got very dirty. I'm like thinking about the community at that time. It was like feathers are dumb. They make them look like I guess this was their like early 2010s. It's like okay, like,
Yeah,
it is what it is. Like oh gosh, and then even in like the scholarly community, there's like was a huge bunch of debate on like how extensive it was, like what dinosaurs did have feathers versus didn't, and there's been like a lot of like cool discoveries in that amount of time. Like there's like a dinosaur discovered like once every year at the very least.
Oh
really?
damn! I didn't know
That's
Yeah.
that.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a lot.
There's a Wikipedia page that's like that keeps like a tally of like how many of them are discovered per year or whatever, like and like a long list of the ones that we know for certain. Like there's either like impressions or like quill knobs, which is like on the forearms of some there's like little bumps that like feathers used to be attached to. And
Damn.
yeah, like it adds up over time. It's kind of cool. And like that was and it's fun to like watch it grow. Like you're like, oh shoot, these discoveries are being added bit by bit. That's so cool.
That is cool. Did you guys watch did you watch Eyewitness like when you were a kid? Like did you have those little
Was that
Eyewitness
like a
VHS
crime show?
tapes? No, it was they were like they were for kids, but they were like educational things. And I can picture the opening thing. Hopefully somebody who's listening can like recognize this, but it's like the opening thing, you're like the camera's like flying through this like CG museum and it's like
Oh yes.
yeah, and then yeah, and I
Yes,
had
dude.
one that was on like I had one that was on dinosaurs, I had one that was on bugs, and I had one that was on maybe like jungles or rainforests or something. And those were like the things that I loved as a kid were bugs and dinosaurs were like my two.
Oh, me too.
I still love those things. I think I went through a phase that I was like, ew, bugs, but now I'm back to just like I fucking love bugs.
As long as they're not spiders, bro, I'm totally okay with it.
No, I even like spiders. It's just like you know what actually is like my only it's actually weird. It's like a phobia. It's like the only phobia that I have is I hate house flies. I don't like
You're scared of them though, or you just hate
like
them?
not scared, but like they just gross me out. It happened actually like probably like 6 or 7 years ago that it's kind of a gross story, but I gotta tell it. But it's like I killed this big fucking housefly that was in my apartment. Like it was in my room flying around. It was one of those that was big enough that you could just hear it like moving from room to room.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Which is disgusting. I already think they're just gross bugs. It's gonna be so gross to even conjure up this story, but I killed it. I think I hit it with something like a rolled up magazine or whatever, and it was sitting on my window, so I hit it, and it was intact, but it died, and it fell down onto my windowsill, and not even like 3 seconds after that time passed, it had like maggots crawling out of it.
Oh my God.
And it was like so disturbing to me that it just completely like it like traumatized me. Like I will never look at flies the same. I actually don't even care
Do
about
they lay
like
eggs? Like, were those babies or were those parasites?
they must have been baby. I have no fucking clue, honestly.
Yeah, I don't
but
know
they-
how flies
I don't
work,
know,
dude.
but I actually have no problem
Oh.
with spiders. I usually save spiders if they're in my house. I don't kill them. I like scoop them up and take them out, and even like creepy crawlies and shit, they don't bother me, but flies are just it's just a no-go. And I just don't like that like even like with a spider, if there's a spider in your house, it's like, okay, there's a spider and it's right there. You know what I mean? Let me go get like a cup that I can put over it and take it out of my house. Flies, it's like a fucking production.
You
Like,
can't
they're
do
like
anything,
flying
yeah.
around. Yeah, I just hate they're
The
following
worst
me
is when they're
around.
in your car and you're like, dude, I am trying to fucking
I
free
find it
you.
fried.
Go out the window. And they're
That
like,
is like
I'm going to try to stay on the windshield.
the dumbest shit ever. Yeah, I
I
drew a
can't
com-
stand.
Not to interject, but we have
oh.
3 minutes left. So
Oh,
just
shoot.
keep that in
Oh,
mind,
okay.
Big T. But we'll be
Sorry,
back.
go ahead, Trey. Yeah.
Oh, I can't stand. Do you know like house centipedes? Oh,
Yes,
Dude,
we've
yo,
talked about them
those
on
guys.
pod.
Literally,
Yeah.
dude, I
Things
had
are
one in my
disgusting.
room. I was in a very bad place, okay? But I had one in my room. I had tiled floor because I was living in like a makeshift laundry room. It was
Mhm.
so big you heard it walking. Okay, this
Oh.
thing was gigantic, and
So wrong.
I hated him so much. But then one morning I woke up a week later and he was right next to my bed, dead. And there's a part of me that was like, my nemesis. You know, in animes, your nemesis dies. I was kind of like,
Kind
you
of
were a
You like
good-
held him in
good
your
friend.
arms.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally, I was like sad over it or whatever.
That
All right.
those things are so gnarly, dude.
Dude, they
Yeah.
are disgusting, and they bite. They
They
like
bite?
literally- yeah, they
Oh my
bite.
God,
you,
you're making
bro.
them worse.
Dude, I don't fuck with those. Dude, I'm gonna ask one of the shorter ones, and if you get
Okay.
cut off, you can
Oh, you got a
you
question?
just fill in next time. Well, you have to remind me of this, Harris, because I'm gonna have like 3 or 4 more seltzers and just not know where I am at all. But we did get some Patreon questions for you.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
This is a
Nice.
kind of semi-short one, but if you could live or not live, but observe any prehistoric ecosystem, is there one in particular where you're like, that's what I do?
Oh, we brought a bug. I would love to go to the Carboniferous, which was like the period in Earth's history where there were just giant ass bugs just running around.
Jesus. Sounds
Dude, I would
horrendous,
die.
honestly. You know what's so
Giant, like,
funny? I text
Man-sized centipedes,
Ugh.
eagle-sized dragonflies and shit.
that's kind of dope, honestly.
Kind of cool. It would have been cool to see.
That would
Sorry,
have been
interrupted
cool.
you.
No, it's okay. It's funny. I actually also just texted like a group chat with my buddies that I was like, yo, I'm about to be on a podcast with Trey the Explainer. If you have any questions about like dinosaurs,
Clout, bro.
you know,
Get
or
that clay,
Oh
anything.
my
that
God.
trade
Yeah, I was
clout,
like,
baby.
let me know, drop it in the chat. The only reply that I got was from my buddy, and he said, he said, which dinosaur had the biggest yet manageable cock?
Oh my God. This is a good question. This is a
Great
debate.
question.
Minute left. Minute left.
One
Just a heads
minute
up.
left.
Shoot, we don't really know how big dinosaur like penises were.
Oh, I guess we wouldn't know.
It's not preserved usually. It's soft tissue. I think there's probably at least like one. But
I've seen a few dinosaur penises. They're out there.
The truth is out there.
There's but I've seen there's paleo art of a stegosaurus penis that's giant.
Really?
Oh, for real?
Yes, by a buddy of mine. If I see him,
Really?
yeah, and like his reasoning was that like Stegosaurus is weird. It's the one with the back plates. It would need a long schlong to get around.
That is
the
a
plates.
very good point.
We're back. We're
We're
back with
back.
Trey.
We are
Dude,
back.
we got off the first call to go into the first break, and I went to go piss, and I immediately texted Harris, and I was like, or I called you, and I was like, yo, dude, this is really fun. am I talking too much? And Harris is like, no, dude, I'm having a really good time. Am I talking too much? And I was like, no. And then Harris is like, yo, Trey just texted me like, yo, I'm having a good time. Am I talking too much? So I'm glad we're all on the same level.
We're on the
It's
same.
solid.
That's all right. It's just the
Very
podcast way. Yeah. Dude, no, it was great. You know, there was one thing that I forgot to make mention of last time though, was have you guys seen it's like one of the best tweets that's ever happened? Was Soldier Boy tweeted out a picture of Otzi the Iceman, and you know Otzi died like this.
Oh, he was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
tagging,
And
yeah,
Otzi,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Otzi's like, yo, he died cranking that Soldier Boy. Like, have you seen that tweet?
Hell
It's like
yeah.
such a good anyway, I'm gonna try to find it. It's pretty funny. But anyway, welcome back. We're in segment number 2.
Dude, not to interrupt again, but was Otzi the one that had he had like
He was,
clothes
really
on?
well preserved.
Yes, but with the
He was like
clothes
a-
though, right?
He was like
They
from
saw-
the Bronze Age. He had like fur, like a goat skin, like cloak and stuff like that. Yeah, he was super well preserved.
Dude, he was the first furry. He was he had a goat persona. He was just like dressing
That's
up.
awesome.
And he was murdered. He was murdered for it.
Oh right, yeah, I totally forgot. He had like a knife wound, right?
He had,
Is that what it was?
An arrow point in him, or
An
something
arrow,
like that.
okay.
It might have been knife wound too.
Wow.
You know that he was pretty messed up.
Dude, I'll take your word for it because 50% of the time I speak with authority, I have it totally totally
Oh,
like
no.
incorrect or like half
That's me
true.
too. No. Sometimes you gotta go with your gut. Sometimes you're right.
Exactly.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you're wrong.
Sometimes you fail spectacularly.
I'm like looking at a photo of Otzi right now, and it's like it really is like insane how intact this guy is. Like considering it says he lived sometime between 3350 and 3105 BC, discovered in 1991 in the Otzi apps, hence the nickname Otzi. And it's like I'm looking at a photo of him right now. He is indeed cranking that Soldier Boy, and he looks like he doesn't look a day over 3351 BC. Honestly,
Hey,
it looks great. No, but and have you seen this photo of him before they chisel? I'm on the Wikipedia
am I spelling
page.
this wrong? I typed in OATSIE.
No, that you're getting dangerously close to Goatsy. You're like
I was
one
gonna
letter
say,
away
yeah.
from getting.
This is like
No,
a nickname you'd give the Quaker Oats man.
It's OTZI, and the O has a little umlaut over it, but I think Google will forgive you if you drop the umlaut. But let's see. There's a photo of him on the Wikipedia page before they've excavated him, and he's just like face down in the mud.
Yeah.
And I cannot imagine it's like what we were talking about on the first segment. Also, it's like that first feeling when you find something like that has to be just sheer terror before you before you know that, oh, this guy died thousands and thousands of years ago and like in a completely different era. But when you first find it, you're like, oh shit, that's a dead body.
Dude, I found the picture you were talking about where he's face down in the puddle, and this is literally going to be me after like 3 more seltzers. I'm just giving you a heads up. I'll recreate it.
Get frozen in a glacier.
Oh, yeah, dude.
It's like
My Sunday was a movie, bro.
I feel
Or
like,
Monday. Whoops.
I feel like, all this talk also is making me think, Trey, there's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like you're in a good place right now. I don't know another guy who's like, he's a good memer and he's really educated on like archaeological shit. Like you could kind of, I mean, you have definitely taken on that role.
Oh, thank you. I try my best. Some of my memes could fall
good.
flat.
It's like you and Soldier Boy are like the only 2 guys that I can think of. It's like
making archaeology memes.
Dude, what is your sorry, Harris. What is
ahead.
Your goal in terms of this chat? Not like goal. I feel like I always phrase this question very stupidly, but do you want to like continue making shit like this, whether it's like you stay on YouTube or do like some sort of TV show type thing, or do you want to become like a official like archaeologist?
That's a good question. No, that's like a question that I'm like debating like right now. As I like move out of like the university system. I'm definitely going to keep it up. Like I love doing it. Like it's grew out of like a hobby for me, where like I always just loved learning random bits of information, and I would always like tell my parents it, and they would be like, yeah, that's interesting. They'd be kind of
Hell
sick
yeah.
of me because it's like, I don't know, not too many people care about like I don't know, all these like trivia facts that I learned. So that's why like I made the channel like as like an outlet like for creatively, and just like I don't know, I love sharing information and tidbits that I learned. So like even if like it doesn't be like my main job, like I'm gonna still keep it up because it's something that like I just love. Um,
Yeah.
Once I graduate, no, I'm definitely gonna like it's gonna be the first time in like my life where like I'm gonna be able just to focus solely on YouTube, as opposed to like trying to balance it with like school and studies and stuff.
So you're not gonna
Um,
immediately look for like a archaeology gig. You're gonna focus on the videos.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna like yeah, I'm just gonna like for at least maybe like a year or something focus on the videos and see like how that feels like, what that feels like for me.
Hmm.
And then go from there. Cause like I did like I'm signed up to do another like archaeological dig this summer for like a month or something in Greece, which will be really fun.
Oh,
That's
that's
Um
awesome.
sick.
yeah, thank you. So
And this
yeah,
is this is still through the school program or out of it?
this is out of it now.
Okay.
But like yeah, like it'll be like it's like at like it's in northern Greece near like near Igai, which is like one of the royal tombs of like the Alexander the Great like royal family. So I'll be working in that complex. That'll be part time. And then yeah, but afterwards, like I want to make discoveries. Like I want to be able like to contribute in some way. And like not because I have like a genetic background. I'm not that good at genetics. Like it was kind of like my first major, and then I learned what I actually am good at. Um, but with the background, like archaeology people need more geneticists and like biochemistry people to work on dig sites and stuff. So like I don't know. I hope I could use my genetics background in some way in archaeology too.
Where does that come into play? Where does the genetics factor into like archaeology?
Oh, like they use it a lot for like studying like the heritage of like a skeleton, like where like if there's migrations from like one region to another.
Oh, that's very
Um
cool.
And this
yeah, or
is
like oh yeah.
what does that involve? Does that involve like taking pieces of the bone and blending it and like going through the DNA like sequence, or is it just something you can tell without going that far?
No, you're exactly right. Like you literally just like take the bone. Like you usually do like finger or tooth. Two teeth are really good. They preserve DNA really well.
Hmm.
And you just grind it up. You like it's a very destructive process because like DNA is really it degrades over time, and like you want to get into like the core of the bone where the DNA is probably still intact. You
Hmm.
grind it up, and then you like amplify it, make more copies of that DNA like sequence, and then you analyze it and compare it to like modern skeletons or other ones in the database, and be like, okay, what is related to this person, where they fit in, and like the genetics has like done a really great job in archaeology already, where like it's been able to show that like there are these migrations in human history that are like invisible pretty much. Like we know that like movement into Europe went in like three different waves of like different people at different times. So it's a new emerging field if anybody wants to get into it.
What
Very
is
cool.
it? Harris is much smarter than me, but you know, the weakest link. We're as strong as the weakest link. What is it about the DNA? Like, what is it that you're looking at where you can tell something as crazy as like migration?
Oh yeah, like so like when people so you look at like the non-coding sequence of the DNA typically, like there's in person's DNA there's coding stuff that like codes for like your eye color or I don't know like your hair or other kind of stuff like all that kind of stuff. But in there's also like a lot of non-coding DNA that does basically nothing. It's just kind of like just like filler.
Hmm.
There's like debate on like why there's so much non-coding DNA in like our DNA sequence. But anyways, like that stuff is really crucial because like it doesn't change with evolution or anything. So like it only trying to explain it only like mutates just by random chance. So like your grandma has like a specific sequence in her non-coding DNA sequence that she passes down to all her children,
Mhm.
and hers is going to look different than somebody else's grandma. So it's like a good way to like measure where somebody's descended on the tree, like when humans split into different groups and migrated. So like one group is going to have a different non-coding region than another group. So it allows you to go like, okay, this skeleton belongs to this group A that moved earlier and is distinct from group B that came in later. So it's like, I don't know, it's like you're able to make like a tree of like of people, I guess, and their relations to each other and how distant or close they are.
So
I'm trying
correct
to
me if
explain
I'm wrong, but let me translate for our fellow low IQ listeners.
So
Are
I'm
you
trying my best.
you're saying I think I kind of picked up, but watch me totally not have this correct. Please tell me if I'm an idiot. But you're essentially comparing bits of the DNA, and you compare that to people who are currently settled in certain regions, and
Yeah.
that's how you can tell that's where they went.
And other skeletons too, yeah.
Okay.
And like other people from the past. So
See,
like,
when you were first explaining it, and again, because I'm an idiot, I thought there was something with DNA where it's like, oh, this guy's from North Dakota because his DNA says that. And I was like, how the fuck would you be able to tell that? But that makes more sense. So you're comparing it to like, and are you comparing it to people who are there now, or just like fossils that were found there?
oh, both. Sometimes
Both.
both.
Okay.
Like, sometimes you'll find like Otzi is a really good example where they compared his DNA to like the people who live in Italy or the surrounding area now, and he's like not related to any of those people. He's closest related to people in like Sardinia, which is like an island in the Mediterranean. So it suggests that like there must have been like the current population in Italy or the region like settled and replaced the ancient humans that used to be there.
The
So you can
Proto-Italians.
the
So
Proto-Italians
The crystal
and like
skull.
the
They were
Sardinians.
the ones with the crystal skulls.
Yeah, that's right.
The crystal skull.
That is crazy to think like I mean, there's just so much information that's just lost to time
Mhm.
that was not documented, like migrations of people, like years. I mean, it's prehistory for a reason because nobody was fucking keeping track. So it's like all this shit happened. These different people migrated. I was actually just got back. Actually, Trey, you know this too because I was talking to you about it. But I just got back from this cruise where we did a little excursion in Mexico where I had
Mhm.
never been before, and there we went to go see some Mayan, like architecture, some pyramids, like a little settlement that was still there, from the Mayans, and our tour guide. This is like a source, the Mexican guy that I met in Mexico.
I trust him. I trust
I
him.
trust
So
him.
sometimes that's good. So
It was
I'm
good,
like,
but he told me he said that basically he was talking while we were on the bus ride out to these pyramids. He was basically explaining like a brief history of the Mayans, and he said that actually they they were able to deduce that the Mayans who had settled there were related to Mongolians, and that it was actually a settlement. They were descendants of a settlement of Mongolians that had migrated over to that area and settled in that area. And one of the giveaways, or one of the ways that they were able to deduce this, was because Mayans and the current descendants of Mayans, people who still live in Mexico, have just above, I think, the top of their butt crack, like at the base of their spine, they have a blue, they're born with like a blue birthmark, basically, like a darker area, like a birthmark. And people who are of Mongolian descent have that same birthmark. It's some like
That's
genetic
crazy.
that which is fascinating. I had never heard that before, but I thought for a second, like, it's kind of convenient, right? To just be like, oh yeah, these people are related to these people because they have a big blue button on their ass. Like everybody is just it's like a very obvious mark. But I will say, oddly enough, my like my nephew, basically, his dad is Vietnamese, and he's the baby, he's like just under a year old, also has that birthmark just above like
Oh,
his
bro.
butt. And so I'm it made me think, like, me and my girlfriend were talking about like, oh, that's kind of crazy. I wonder if he also has like Mongolian DNA because of this like birthmark. I had never heard it before this time, but it's like it made me think it's like it was like an oversimplified way. Instead of doing all this DNA, they're like, no, they're related to the Mongolians because they have the same butt mark. It's pretty wild.
It's like blue, you said,
It's like, let me see.
or like a dark
Look it
blue.
up.
I'm looking at
It's-
I didn't hear about this. But no, you're right that like
Bro, we get
there's
5%
a lot of
of
East Asian.
if you make a video on this, we get 5%. Harris brought the idea to get out.
Wait, I kind of want to see, but like Mongolian birthmark.
Oh, this
Yeah,
is
it's
cool.
like you can kind of see it. Like if I look up Mongolian birthmark, they're not all just like above the base of the crack, but it gives you an idea. It almost looks like light bruising, but it's
Dude,
not.
this is so crazy because I didn't know this was a human thing. Okay, so there's this guy I grew up in Saudi, and I have like I had like a little fossil thing happen. I'll bring that story up later. But there was a guy on campus who was a Persian cat breeder,
Okay.
Oh.
and you know, my parents like wanted a cat. I really wanted a cat. We went to pick one up, and Buddy, my best friend, I loved this cat, bro. He was so fresh, and when we picked him up, the breeder's like, check this out. This is crazy. And he opened the cat's mouth and he's like, look at that. And there was a blue birthmark on the roof of his mouth. And he
What?
was like, that shows you he's like a premium genetic line Persian. They all have that blue birthmark.
What?
So that must be like a thing that can happen in like
So weird.
different species.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, as a kid, of course, I didn't give a fuck. I was like, I really do not care if my cat's mouth is blue. Like this is like meaningless. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really interesting. I mean, you know what that makes me think of also? You guys want to browse a really interesting, and for listeners at home, really interesting Wikipedia page is something along the lines of it's like vestigial traits in humans, like
Oh yeah,
basically,
yeah.
like basically things like traits that humans still retain that are we just have because of our ancestry or because of like our ancestry as animals and primates and shit like that. And
Don't
I
we
was
have a
talking,
vestigial organ, or am I getting that totally incorrect?
I think
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I think like isn't our gallbladder vestigial? Or is
Yeah,
that,
it's
or
something
is
like that, or
Appendix.
not pancreas.
Appendix is thought to be a vestigial.
Appendix. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
appendix? Yeah.
It's like there's a theory that it used to hold bacteria or something like that. I'd have to look into the theory that it was like used for the immune system, like it was a sac for collecting diseases and like stuff for your body to
So
find.
That's
weird.
hot.
This
That's
is like
awesome.
Dude,
my
what a
version
dick
of it.
move,
People
bro.
look into it.
You're a vestigial organ and you can literally explode and like cause people to
I
die.
know,
Like,
literally.
what an asshole move. Dude.
It's like it's not even fair to call it vestigial when it's actually like dangerous. It's like it actually
It's like it hurts you.
yeah, that's the another weird one that's on there in terms of like vestigiality is that apparently there's this trait in like newborn babies that they can hold their own body weight. Like they have like an instinctive ability to grab onto. If you put like a bar in front of them, they will grab onto it and can carry their own weight on it. And it's theorized that it's vestigial from when we were clinging to our mother's fur as monkeys. Like that's like that you had to be able to do that as like a baby.
I saw some viral video where I don't know if it could even be called vestigial or if it's just because all the babies in the video were super stupid, but it was like parents trying to put their babies in the grass and they instinctively there were like 20 different babies, but they instinctively like threw their legs up not to touch it.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's very weird, but
What is that avoiding? Like
I don't
dirt
know.
bugs?
That's why I'm like,
What
these
are they
babies are
doing?
fucking stupid, bro. Fuck these babies.
I think I saw that. I don't know why that is. I think I saw like there's like some pseudoscientific like theories where people just kind of make them up. Where it's like, oh, there could be snakes in there, so the baby's trying to like hide from that. I've also like there's a video online of a baby crying and like they have a husky, the baby, and the husky like howls really loudly and the baby shuts up like immediately. So there's people that are like, oh crap, is that like an adaptation from when like babies were at risk of getting devoured by like wolves and like the baby's like trained to go quiet when the
Dude,
wolves
to
nearby.
speak to that point, I don't know if you've seen this video, but there's someone recording on an airplane while they're boarding and the baby's screaming and this fucking angry dude is trying to get to his seat is just like, wah, wah, just like screams in its face, and the baby immediately is like, oh, I'm not fucking with this guy.
Yeah. Oh god. That's crazy. Yeah, I've never heard any of that shit before. Oh, and the other one that I made mention of, which is kind of weird, I think I mentioned this on the last podcast just by coincidence, but if you have like on the back outer, like the exterior part of your ear, like you
Oh, I
might have
remember you
like
talking about that one, the bump.
there's like a tiny bump that you can feel like kind of along the outer ridge of your ear, which apparently is vestigial from when we literally had pointed ears, like
Like
as
monkey
like
ears.
monkey, like ape
Based.
Oh
monkey
my
ears,
God.
yeah, which is pretty wild.
Dude,
Oh,
you
here,
brought this up, so just so I don't forget, but you were
what's that?
talking about how, you know how like sometimes people come up with like, yeah, we do that instinctively because there used to be giant spider monkeys that used to eat us or whatever,
Yeah,
but like
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
This sounds like such a fake thing, but I've never researched it. But I'm curious if you've heard anything about it. But there's a bunch of like theater type nerds slash scientist type people who are like, the reason we're so scared about like CGI and what's it called? The uncanny valley.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's a
Mhm.
point where you kind of like feel scared as they're like, that implies there used to be some sort of like creature that looked human but
Oh,
preyed on
what? That's
us. Have
so
you heard about
creepy.
that?
I've seen the memes about this. I don't know like how much basis there is in science. Like
Yeah.
ancient like prehistoric humans did coexist with other like groups of human like other human species or
Yeah, like
subspecies.
Neanderthals, right?
Like Neanderthals.
Yeah.
There's some that we don't even know what their names are. Like this is where geneticists have come in and they've seen they call them ghost populations where they're visible in the genetics, but like there's no physical evidence to support them yet.
Ooh, that's creepy.
Isn't that creepy? Yeah, like we're
Yeah.
like our ancestors like mated with other human groups that, like we don't even know
I don't
exist. They
even.
left no remnants. Like
Based
at one
interspecies
time.
human
Yeah.
sex. Nice.
There
No,
were.
humans like we're the product of like at least like 3 or 4 different like groups mating with each other. It's kind of crazy. Like
So crazy.
We had to
Yeah.
rail a fucking shared ancestor with monkeys because we're way too similar. We're way
Yeah.
too similar.
Well, there are some. I mean, we haven't even gotten into the topic of like cryptozoology yet, but
Bro,
like,
dude, I'm heated.
but there are some there's some speculation that I think it's Homo floresiensis or
Are
something
those the
like
Hobbit
that.
ones?
They're the ones that are like, well, first of all, I went to a museum in DC like a year ago that I had never been to before. That was really cool. I would, it was probably like called the Natural History Museum or something, but they had a really cool exhibit that was on primitive humans and what do you call
Proto?
like
like
Neanderthals, like
like
not
archaic
humans,
archaic humans.
archaic humans, yeah,
There's
or
a
like
lot of like
I thought you
different
said
terminology.
archaic
yeah,
Cubans, and I was like, hey,
archaic
hold up on the
humans.
racism, Trey. Come on.
But they had basically reconstructed the faces of these like 4 or 5 different human adjacent, like it was like Homo erectus, Homo something or other, and one of them was the Floriensis
Mm.
creature,
Yeah, yeah.
which and the way that they did it was they reconstructed the face and they put it in a glass case and they put it at the height that they would have stood at. So when you were looking at it like eye to eye, you could see what height it was in comparison to you. And of course, most of them are either roughly human or slightly smaller, but this particular one, the Floriensis, was like 3 feet tall. Like it's like
Oh yeah.
it was like a tiny shriveled woman. And I was like, what the fuck? That is like so weird that that existed. But there is speculation that they still exist in like small populations, I think in like the jungles of Indochina. They've like spotted, or I think some of it has been caught on film too, these like tiny humans. Do you
I've
know
seen those.
the
I've seen those blurry YouTube videos where it's like
yeah.
one
Oh, the
running from like a
gnome?
motorcycle. with,
Yes,
like,
Yes,
the
yes,
bike.
yeah, dude.
exactly. Yeah.
Yo, you're into genetics. Let me ask this amazing question, and then when you answer, immediately leave because I'm gonna piss my pants.
Okay.
Is it possible? I feel like I'm like Alex Jones right now. Can you prove this is not true? Is it possible that, um, first of all, is dwarfism and like, is that the correct term for small people? Or are there multiple things that can cause that?
There's like multiple types of dwarfism.
Okay.
Yeah, like there's like and like they have different genetics. Like there's some dwarfism that's like dominant, like it'll be passed down to the person's children regardless. Or and then there's ones that are more complicated where it's like multi genetic like genes, like there's multiple genes, so it's like complex when it will show up or when it won't.
Hmm.
Is that for sure a genetic disorder where wires are getting crossed, or is it possible? I feel so stupid right now. I'm gonna rewatch this and
No,
be
you're
like,
good, you're
I'm
good.
fucking dumb.
Those are
Is it possible that that's literally leftover genetics from what Harris said, like a potential ancestor that was like smaller?
Um, like I think like most cases of dwarfism are like hormonal problems or not problems, but like dysfunctions where like a person's not receiving the correct level of hormones, so like they're not growing as much. So it's more like it's probably more wires crossing, but like there is like our ancestors were smaller, like Australopithecus was like tiny, like it was like like I'm thinking like 3 feet tall or 4 feet tall, something like that. Like Lucy, the famous one, that everybody knows. Like
yeah, I've seen
you
that.
picture it in your head, and you're like, oh, it's like a human-sized like ape. It's like no, it's like a tiny little creature
Yeah,
Bro,
that could
you're
like get preyed on by like leopards and stuff.
yeah.
Um,
you're telling
and
me short stack goblin girls were real?
they were
They
real.
were real. They were
They
real.
I
ruled the
was born
earth.
in the wrong time, boys.
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
seriously. Um, how much credit do you give to some of the like? I know you have actually a few, like you have a series of videos on cryptozoology. I think the only one that I watched was, oh no, I watched the Mothman, and I started the Flatwood Monster, but then I was running out of time before we were going to start talking. But uh, what like are there? Do you believe any of those, or not believe, but like, are you lenient on any of that, or do you think it's mostly just wishful thinking?
I don't want to like squash on people because I love cryptids. I grew up on cryptids. I
Yeah.
loved like have you ever seen Monster Quest or anything like that?
Yeah, wait, why does that sound really familiar?
It was on like the History Channel. It was like the cryptid TV show. And like it's a good show. It like and then like Lost Tapes. Have you ever seen Lost Tapes? That's
Yeah,
a
yeah. I'm looking up
beautiful
Monster Quest right now too. This is like totally, I remember watching this. Yeah. God.
like I don't know, like cryptids are fascinating because like kind of like in this world where everything, almost everything feels like it's been discovered already, like cryptids
Uh-huh.
are kind of a nice outlet for imagination and stuff. I think most cryptids are more like a cultural phenomena, like people like obviously like people believe what they're seeing, but
Mm-hmm.
I think like they're misunderstood or missaw something. Like if you break down a lot of the stories, like like is one person seeing something in a very like bad environmental condition where it's like
Yeah,
dark for a split second, and they kind of convince themselves after the fact.
right.
Um, but there's gotta be there's like I don't want to squash on it completely. Like there's definitely like cryptids that turned out to be true, like giant squids. Like it's like the one cryptid that turned out to be
That
true.
shit was real, yeah. That was yeah, that dude, I mean your Mothman video basically I came away from it. It was exactly what you said. Like it was completely you basically debunked it for me. Like it was like all in the same thing because I think your video was like, did the Mothman exist? And I was like, oh shit, maybe it did exist. I have no fucking idea. Tell me, Trey. And then we were watching it and you were like explaining the way the monster looked and I was getting chills up my spine. And then you were like, yeah, but it was probably just an owl. And like, here's why the reasons that it was an owl. Because one, the original couple that saw it was driving at night in the dark. This was before people had high beams on their car. And also there were several species. Like it was like spotted near an owl sanctuary, and there were several species of owl that actually had that trait that when you shine a light in its eyes, they glow red. And
Yeah.
it was literally like to a T what the Mothman was described as.
And,
And so it
and
was
there
like
was like there was a snowy owl. So snowy owls aren't really found in West Virginia, and it was
mhm.
shot and killed like at around that same time. And they're like slightly bigger than the owls there. And I've seen that snowy owl. I found it. I tracked it down. That exact one. That's like because like the redneck guy shot it with his gun and was like, I killed the Mothman. That's and he like put it in his like I asked, so like I went to West Virginia kind of like as a research for this video and
Hmm.
just in general.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, no, it was fun. And I went like if you ever go there, like Point Pleasant's really cool. That's where like the town that's Mothman, they have a big statue of him.
That's
Mothman
dope.
Museum is peak. It's great. It's awesome.
Dude, is that where it originates? West
Yeah, Point
Virginia?
West
Pleasant.
Virginia.
Yeah, West Virginia.
Oh, dude,
Interesting.
not to interrupt, but because I was shocked when Harris brought that up because he was like, "Yeah, I watched the Mothman video and I hadn't seen that one yet. I've mainly seen your like dinosaur ones and the iceberg archaeology." But whenever I visited the States and like stayed with my aunt and uncle, that was like a story they brought up hundreds and thousands of times and like claimed they saw it, the Mothman. But yeah, I always assumed it started in PA or Pennsylvania. I didn't know it
Oh,
was like
that's
a West Virginia thing.
you might be thinking of the
New
Jersey
Jersey
Devil.
Devil? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They had stories about
Oh.
that too. But like my one cousin, that's so funny you say that, Harris, about the reflective eyes, because my cousin was like, dude, I saw a Mothman one night. Like we were walking and it was like 6 feet or 8 feet high. So it was clearly an owl in a tree. And he was like, I shone my light on it and it was all red. And used to freak me out as a kid. But looking
Spooky.
back, I'm like, now, like, yeah, it was obviously an owl. What the fuck?
Well, it's like, I mean, Trey made mention in the video, in the Mothman video, and it's so true, is that it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have this
Mhm.
first couple they saw some shit that they couldn't explain or that they thought was really scary, which probably was a large owl, which also in the right conditions, if I saw a large owl and I wasn't expecting it, I would probably be like, what the fuck is that? And especially if I was driving along really fast, I would just be like, oh my God, there is a Mothman, and I just saw
There's
him.
literally
Like,
Mothman.
but all it takes is just one person. They call it into the police. It makes the news story. Everybody in town is all of a sudden like, oh my God, there is a Mothman. And then every time they go into the woods, they're expecting to see some shit. And if you see an owl in this like highly dense population of owls, like they're basically in a county of owls, you go in there at night, you're gonna hear flapping and see moving shapes and possibly see a pair of bright red eyes. And so there you go. Then it just becomes like these Mothman sightings.
Dude, I went on a walk with my roommate earlier and I almost shit my
Oh, boy.
pants. Dude, we're walking, we live in Pasadena, right? California.
Uh-huh.
Walking down the street, a huge weird creature. And we're like, yo, what the fuck is that? We get closer. Just 3 gigantic peacocks.
What?
Dude,
That's
yeah,
dope.
but then we looked it up and it's like I don't know why I don't know. I assumed peacocks weren't native to America, but I guess they're native to Pasadena. But we were like, I was picturing like if I saw that at night, I would freak out. Like the
Yeah.
fucking tail
Well,
and everything. Like it was very weird.
We actually have a lot of peacocks in Florida. They're basically, they're not native here, but they might as well be now. They're like an invasive species but nobody's doing anything
Dude,
about it because they're crazy looking. So
I was
no one's gonna
wondering if they
kill
were
'em.
invasive because when Daphne was looking it up, it's illegal to feed them. And I was like,
Oh, that's
Oh.
interesting.
they're beautiful. You can't stop me from giving them bread. Fuck you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Florida is just a safe haven for invasive species, and especially out
Hmm.
here, anytime somebody basically the reason that peacocks are here is because there was actually a really wealthy Indian couple that like moved here and owned like a very big plot of land, and I think they actually opened it up as like a sanctuary or like a botanical garden or something, and intentionally they brought over some peacocks with them to like roam the grounds because they're just very like pretty birds basically. And I think that was like fucking 200 years ago, and now they just still like there's when you're driving around in Miami in certain neighborhoods, there are just peacocks like walking around,
Dude,
which is pretty strange.
I want to
Yeah.
get to that level of rich where I can literally just fuck up the ecosystem.
Literally.
There's this place 3 hours north of me, San Simeon.
Mhm.
This fucking eccentric guy. I think what's that shitty movie that everyone says is amazing? And the guy's like, Rosebud.
Oh,
Rosebud.
Citizen
Kane.
Yeah.
It's the dude who the movie was based on. This guy's a crazy mansion. It's 3 hours up north. He imported zebras, and now they roam wild up there.
What?
Dude, it's insane. We were literally driving before we looked it up, and we're
That's
like, "Yo, what the fuck?"
crazy.
And we saw one, and we were like, "Yo, did we smoke weed? What's
Yeah,
going
listen,
on?
no,
What the
I
fuck is
seriously
going
would've-
on?"
I would have thought I was losing my mind. Dude, well, there was this uh man, I probably have mentioned this on a previous podcast, but it's really interesting. Do you guys know if you guys follow this guy Forrest Gallant? Do you know who that is?
Forrest Gallant.
Is that
He's
like a Forrest Gump ripoff? What is this?
no, he's like actually a fairly young guy. I think he's probably 30 something, but he's like he's just like an animal guy, but his main focus, he's super fascinated. He's a really cool guy. His main focus is that he has these like cryptids or like reported sightings of animals that are extinct, basically, like animals that have gone extinct, but then people report seeing them in these very remote areas like jungles and stuff like that. And he goes on these like 2 or 3 month excursions to this area to try to rediscover this animal, which he believes is reported extinct,
So this is
basically.
kind of like a river
This is
monsters
awesome.
type thing.
It's kind of like it honestly is like a river monsters type thing, dude. He's one of the coolest people I follow, like on Instagram. He's super fucking cool. And one of the recent things that he did was he actually did just rediscover this type of like yellow-bellied caiman or something like that he posted on his Instagram at like midnight. And I was scrolling through, he had been in like some jungle in Africa looking for this distinct type of caiman, like this crocodile creature that is known, or it's like what makes it distinct is that it has like a highlighter yellow like underbelly, basically. And they were like in the middle of the night, like looking through the swamp, and they found it. Like he caught it and found it and was taking pictures with it and took samples of it and stuff.
Did
And it
people
was
think it was extinct, or did they
yeah,
think it
it was
was not
it
real?
I think no, it's like I think they knew it was real, but it hadn't been cited in like 40 or 50 years, so it was presumed extinct or like
Yeah.
poached to extinction. And I think he found some very small population of them that was living. I want to say Africa. I don't know where it was exactly, but super crazy. And he posts a video where he found it and he's like crying because they had been like looking for this animal. Dude, he is such a cool
Oh, this
Good
is
for
awesome.
him, bro. Good for him,
but
This is so cool because
it's
like
so
these
cool,
are
but
actual like animals that like could possibly like plausibly exist.
it's
'cause
very cool. And
awesome.
he had a really interesting bit that I saw him talking about that it reminds me of what we were just talking about with these really rich like oligarchs like migrating to America. But there was some period of time where in Texas there were these really like rich people living in Texas. And it was during a time that, especially in Texas, it was legal to own, I have less than a minute, but it was legal to own these like exotic animals. So they would get them shipped over in like boats to Texas. And one of them was this the Tasmanian tiger. Do you guys know
Oh,
what
yeah.
that is?
Bro, yeah.
Yeah, the
Which
thylacine.
which now we still have
There's
existing
footage of the
of
last
it.
one. Yeah.
Exactly, because sometime in like the late 1900s or something, we still had them in captivity. Anyway,
I'm so mad they don't spin around very fast.
I know they don't. They were being shuttled back and forth. There is documentation, according to this guy Forrest. I think I'm gonna get cut off, but like I'll finish it. Trey, can you do another segment?
Yeah, definitely. No, I got plenty of time.
Okay,
Dude,
cool. Let's do
We're
tons
it.
getting
more.
smashed, boys. We're
Hell
getting
yeah.
smashed, boys.
So where was I? Okay, so
Brie Larson's feet. You were talking. You were
okay.
rudely cut off, Harris. But
I
the
know
Tasmanian tiger.
Tasmanian tiger. Yeah, the thylacine.
Thylacine, yeah.
Thylacine. So anyway, yeah, I know I made mention of Forrest Gallant. Another shout out to him. You should really look him up. And the reason that he is even, I forgot to mention this, the reason he was like put in the public eye in the first place is because he was a contestant on Naked and Afraid, which is one of my favorite TV shows.
Really? That's
And
cool.
he fucking rocked the house when he was on there because they paired him up with this chick who was like possibly the worst contestant that's ever been on. Like, I think he's the best contestant they've ever had, and she was the most underqualified, unequipped, whiny contestant they've ever had on, and he was paired up with her, and he dragged her to victory. Like literally was built their shelter, catching animals. He like built his own like fishing net, like trawl, and like was catching food for them. Like the dude is a maniac. He's ridiculous. But and then he kind of like pivoted that his celebrity through the show into like talking about animals and stuff. Anyway, he has this theory that, or he speculates that during this time that these rich oligarchs in Texas were shipping exotic animals over to have in their like menageries at their on their like acres of property that they had. There is documentation of a ship which was carrying like something between 4 to 8 thylacines from wherever I guess from Australia to Texas, and it crash landed on the coast of Texas, and the thylacines were not accounted for. Like they couldn't be found after the ship was crashed. And I believe, I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth, but I believe that Forrest speculates that there may be a small population of thylacines which still live in that area, because actually the climate in that area of Texas and maybe even North Mexico is actually somewhat similar to what they would have lived in Australia, and that if it were true, those thylacine may account for some of the chupacabra sightings which are reported out there, which is really interesting because actually they kind of do look like what the chupacabra is like speculated to look like kind of this like bizarre dog. You know what I mean? Like a weird dog looking creature.
What does that translate into? Goat sucker, right?
I think it translates.
We called
into
my
goat sucker.
uncle goat sucker, but it was an entirely different reason. You know what I'm saying?
Just like my ex-wife. Yeah, they
It's funny that you say that. The origin of that name comes from like a Puerto Rican like comedian or something like that. Like it's traced to like a comedian who said it on like a talk show or something like that.
Really?
It was intended as like a jokey name originally. Yeah.
I did see there was some footage. I mean, this has probably been debunked years ago because I feel like I saw this in like the 8th grade, but there was footage of that was similar to that like Homo floresiensis footage where somebody was like dirt biking along like a Texas road and was pursuing a dog like creature that seemed like unusual, like wasn't quite a dog or something. And
I think I know the video that you're talking about.
Do you know the video I'm talking about?
Yeah. I think and it's like it's all like kind of like gray or blue. Like
yes.
It
looks almost like hairless or like smooth. Yeah.
I think that was revealed to be like a coyote with mange, maybe, or something like that.
That probably is more.
I hate how it's always that. Or like,
I'm sorry, I'm always the killjoy. I feel bad.
No, dude,
it's like
we need the truth.
We need
truth
people like that. Yeah, it's true.
I remember there was like I don't think it was Japan. I think it might have been somewhere in the States, but like this weird creature washed up and everyone was freaking out and all these people were going nuts. And then it was like, this is just like a waterlogged raccoon.
Dude.
Oh,
And I was like, fuck.
The Montauk Monster.
The Montauk Monster.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, disappointing, dude.
Which actually, I know Yola Swag is gonna know what I'm talking about. There's a Toasty Patel track titled Montauk
Monster, baby.
Which is in reference to the
Harris's rapping alter ego.
That was my rap alter ego many moons ago. But yeah, powerful. No, the Montauk Monster is fucking. It's a gnarly looking creature, but it is. Oddly enough, I was just driving with my girl in the car, and we passed by some roadkill that looked quite bizarre, but you could tell I could tell that it was a raccoon, but it looked really like big. And she was like, what was that? Was that a dog? Like, what was that thing? And I was like, No, I'm pretty sure that was a raccoon. And she was like, it was way too big to be a raccoon. But I was saying, like, I mean, when things die, they get all kinds of fucking
Get
bloated
funky.
and
Yeah.
misshapen. And yeah, and the Montauk Monster is a perfect example of that. That shit looks, it does not look like a raccoon, but it's because it was like waterlogged for fucking who knows how long. Yeah.
There's like an art form to those like creepy like online photos of just like a body of like a creature or animal. Like I have like I have like an amassed a collection of these for like a future video about like these weird photos that cropped up in like the early to like mid 2000s of just like weird creature, like weird like images that showed up online. Like Montauk Monster is one of them. There's a lot of like lobster ones.
Oh
I don't know.
yeah.
It's kind of like like in the early internet, you'd find like these like YouTube videos that are like compilations of them. That's what got me into like YouTube is like weird cryptid monster videos.
Oh
Like
yeah,
stuff like
For
that.
I've looked up
sure.
a
Yeah.
ton for sure. Yeah.
With like wake me up inside like weird
Yes.
like
Yeah,
music
that's
following
the
it.
best part. Dude, speaking of like, oh my God, I'm not even gonna shout out the name because I do not want people finding this, but I know actually my buddy who I made these videos with, I know that he listens to the podcast. So shout out to Matt. That's my buddy. I think he'll probably listen to this episode too, but I used to make videos with this guy. The videos are still on YouTube,
Oh my god.
but we made them back when we were in like seventh or eighth grade, so we were a lot younger, and they were just like goofy like skit videos that we would film. Like they were funny at the time, and they're like watching them now I'm like, oh my God, it's like but like there was one that we put out there that was it actually got a lot of traction, but for the wrong reason, because we called it things you can run over with a lawnmower. And but we made it like a sketch. Like we were like, I think we did run over a couple things with a lawnmower, but like a lot of it was just like oh, this one's indestructible, like just like it was like us being like really stupid. And for some reason it gained a ton of traction, probably because there were like edgy, eighth graders that were looking up like running things over with a lawnmower, and then found our video, and it was like our most viewed video by far, but all of the comments were just like, this is gay, you guys suck, like all this shit. And we were like, oh my God, we had never seen any like response like that before. And I think we took down the video because we were just like, we were so like disturbed by it. But it was just that it's funny because like I don't know why that popped in my head. We're just talking about like that era is what I picture of like YouTube when it was like a little bit more lawless, and actually there were people who were capitalizing on that side of YouTube where if you wanted to find things being run over with a lawnmower, that was actually the only place. It was the best place to do it because it wasn't on TV. It wasn't, there were none of the social media existed. You know what I mean? So if you wanted to see that happen, you had to go to YouTube and type in things being run over with a lawnmower. I just like kind of miss the simplicity of
Oh,
that.
I agree. Early YouTube was great, like great in like this macabre, weird
I
way.
know.
Like I remember like, have you ever seen there's a video that was like really early, like 2008 or something. It's called like Gnome in Argentina or something.
Dude,
Video
yes.
of Gnome,
No.
and it's like
Yes,
like
dude.
this. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Where
I'm
It's when
looking
he
it
like
up right
walks
now.
up kind of and then the
Walks
camera
on
guy
the
like
street.
freaks out or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
What? Hang on, I'm
Dude,
about
I
to
was
watch it.
convinced it was real, dude. I was like, this is proof.
Oh, I see right here. Gnome in Argentina, 2008.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm watching
Gnome
right now.
sighting.
Let me bring the volume down a bit here.
I
Oh, of
fucking
course,
love these types of
it's like
videos.
extremely great. There's like literally 4 JPEGs in the entire video. Oh my God. Wait,
He does like a little waddle or like a
The little
dance.
waddle, yeah.
Yeah.
let's see.
And this
Oh, but
debate on
this
who
is
that
the
what
dude.
was.
This is the type of video that like if me and my buddy Matt like had seen at the time, we would have been like literally watching it on repeat and like pause right there, zoom in, like what, like dude, is that real? Man, I'm waiting for the moment. Let me see.
Dude, while you're watching the video and while we're on the topic of cryptids, this is technically a question for both of you. I'm curious, but especially Trey, just because you've probably, I'm imagining. I know you said you had a folder of like thousands of like those crazy
Oh,
faked
God.
pictures,
Oh yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
assuming you've also seen a ton of just like faked video footage, like while you're researching and shit.
Hmm.
Is there, if any, maybe you don't even have one, but is there one cryptid where you're like, I kind of do think it's real? And I'll start with mine. I, I don't know if I really think it's real, but I do think there's stuff in the ocean that
Oh,
we
no
either
doubt,
think is extinct or is just like freaky. Yeah, right?
Mhm.
Because
for
and the only
sure.
reason I say that is because anytime I doubt myself, I just think about the whole. You guys know what a relicanth is, right? Or am
Yeah,
I
coelacanth.
I literally named the
Oh,
Pokemon that's based
coelacanth.
on it. I'm
As
so
a
stupid,
relicanth.
dude. But
Yeah,
yeah, the
coelacanth.
coelacanth, or is that what it is? I thought, is it
I don't know how
coelacanth
to.
or coelacanth?
I don't know. It looks like coelacanth to me, but it probably is.
Coelacanth. I might have been.
Oh,
I'm like really bad with
it
pronunciation,
is
so like, I
it
just do
it is
that.
coelacanth. Sorry, I just looked it up. It's on Wikipedia. The pronunciation is
Coelacanth.
coelacanth. Yeah, you're right.
But that is like, dude, that's so crazy to me because it literally looks like it hasn't evolved since
It
when we
hasn't.
thought it went extinct. Like it has like
Yeah,
a rock head. It's like very weird. But that
yeah.
always makes me think there has to be something. I don't know if I'd say a megalodon, but there has to be some sort of like giant apex predator we're unaware of that may be super low. But then again, you'd think with all the footage we have in our phones, someone would have found something by now. But anyway, are there any that you guys are like, I kind of think it might be real?
Hmm, that's a good question. I agree with you that like there's definitely a lot of undiscovered stuff in the ocean. I don't know like how big the thing with like apex predators is that they require a lot of like food and resources and stuff.
Hmm.
And like when you get to like lower levels of like the ocean, like there's very little energy and stuff. So like everything is like very weird and like slow and small. Like I don't know.
Mm.
Um, like there's definitely a lot of like really cool stuff there, but I'm not sure about like megalodon and stuff.
You're telling me I'm retarded.
But no, no, not at all, not at all. It's I'd say that it's with any cryptid, it's like you want to like you rank it on like likeliness, like how easily can it like evade people's video cameras and all
Hmm.
kinds of stuff like that, and like how much resources and where can it fit on like the food chain where it can kind of still be like in disguise. When you said like video, that's like really convincing. Like this is just me. Maybe it's like just because it's such a famous video. I love the famous Bigfoot video.
Dude, I
The
was literally when I came back from peeing, I tried to do
I
the
know. I saw that. Yeah, the cryptid sighting.
like,
Yeah.
like a part of me knows that it's most likely to be fake. The people who behind the video are kind of suspect. Where like we have like what essentially amounts to like concept art that like
Hmm.
that was made by the guy before he recorded the video of like an ape woman with big tits. Like the concept art is really
based.
goofy if you
Classic.
if you look at it. It's just like it looks like I don't know, it looks like something you'd see on like Family Guy or I don't know. And like he's a little suspect, and then like there's been people who claim to be the guy in the monkey suit. And stuff. But the video is like just so good look. Like there's something
I
about it
know. It
that
does look
has an
nice.
appeal.
It's just a classic. Like it's just something about it. I mean, it really is like it's like an important piece of like well, it's almost like cinema. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in a way, it's like this weird found footage moment. Because when was that filmed? In like the fucking
1960 something.
I was gonna
It's a
say, yeah,
Patterson
60.
fictional
insane.
film.
Dude, and
What
it's
is
way better than the fucking Loch Ness monster one where it literally looks like someone like squished a fly on a photo and they're like, "Look, there it is." It's like that's like actual footage of it.
Yeah,
So I'm
no.
like, "Ugh."
Loch Ness monster that to me seems like the most difficult to believe
Hmm.
and easiest to debunk, like Loch, like that's just too crazy. The Bigfoot one, I don't know, like a like primate to me in my eyes, especially a big one, that's like a difficult creature to hide. You know,
Hmm.
it's like
Right.
it's a big planet, and especially some of those jungles and even like because Bigfoot is like a North America thing. There are large swaths of land in Northern California that are just forest, where there certainly could exist like some small population of like creatures that we haven't discovered, but I just seems like, I don't know, a giant 6 foot tall gorilla that walks on its two hind legs seems like that's a really hard thing for nobody to have found convincing proof of for a very long time.
I'll give 2 points though to play devil's advocate. And the
What's that?
first one is because I agree with you. If there was something that large, because Trey, you were kind of mentioning this when I was saying megalodon, is that
Yeah.
we probably would have like picked it up on like sonar or something if it's that big.
Mhm.
But you know, the way it's described, Bigfoot, and I don't even really believe in it, but I'm assuming it would have like a level of intelligence that's like somewhere between a monkey and a human. And to me, that's something. If something did have that level of intelligence, I could, if we were like, it could be real. I could see how, like, if it was like shy or didn't want to be seen, it's possible it could like somehow hide out or like not be like camera friendly. And the second point is, and I really do think this is just a serial killer thing. But there's like so many people that go missing in national parks, and I'm again, like I said, I'm pretty sure they're pretty much just getting killed and shit. But there are you always hear stories about like, yeah, there's this ape family like collecting humans, and I don't know what it's doing with them, but I know people use that as like a pointer to say it could be real.
I watched this documentary called Sasquatch that's on Hulu. Have you guys seen that one?
No.
No, what's that?
It's actually kind of interesting. It's this guy. This dude is like, all right. I'll give you. You guys don't have to watch it, so I'll just give you the total rundown of the spoilers. But he's kind of up his own ass. But he's a journalist, and he's like talking about how in the '90s he's like a journalist, but he's kind of like a. It's funny. I almost said guerrilla journalist, but it's kind of funny because it's like he's a guerrilla journalist. Like he's like because he's talking about how back in the '90s he actually was working on a weed farm in the California like forest, like Northern California.
It's already one red flag, but
so basically, which I think still exists, like basically the forest of Northern California is so dense that there are people that have acres of land where they're growing marijuana illegally and will just never be found. But they're basically like a mob, like it's like a mafia, you know what I mean? There's all types of crime and shit that goes on there that's all underground. It's like this dark market. And so at the time, he was just working as a farmhand in this Northern California area. And he's talking about it's in this area of California, I'm sure you can also picture in like Seattle and that like northwestern area of the United States, it's really rainy most of the year and gloomy. And so like during the time, I think there was like one night that he was out there and was like trimming weed leaves or something and went back into his cabin to like rest for the night. And somebody ran in there like frantically, like one of the other farmhands, and was basically like, dude, I just saw a guy killed by Bigfoot. Like, I just saw Bigfoot. He killed my friend. Like, we need to get out of here right now. Like, all this crazy stuff. Of course, everybody's stoned. Everybody's been smoking weed like all day long. And so it was just this crazy thing. I think he like, life went on. Now we're 30 years in the future. And the guy decides like, you know what? Now I'm an established journalist. I still have this story stuck in my head of this time that I was like working on this weed farm, and this guy had this story where he described in vivid detail how one of his friends was found murdered, and he was convinced that it was because he witnessed Bigfoot do it. Like he said that he saw the tracks of Bigfoot and all this shit.
So he didn't see
He didn't
it.
see it.
Okay,
He basically heard that this guy was frantic and emphatically stating that he saw his friend had been murdered by Bigfoot. And so now he's a journalist and he's like, I'm going to go back and investigate that area and interview people who live around there and maybe even try to reconnect with some of these criminals who are working these like farmlands and see if I can like get to the bottom of this. Like, what is it true? And he's also interviewing some in that area, which is a really, high activity area for Bigfoot sighting, there are little like groups, like little militias that are dedicated to trying to locate Bigfoot because they believe that he exists. So it's like the documentary is kind of like interwoven between him interviewing these like criminal guys or guys that are like, used to work on this farm, and also these like Bigfoot guys. Anyway, the long and short of it, because there's a lot that what I'm describing right now is better than this documentary because the documentary is super fucking drawn out, and at the end of it, he basically deduces or is able to get to the bottom of it that essentially what happened was that there was some like mafia type like a hit that was put out on one of these farmhands who like basically knew too much or something, and in order to intimidate the other workers there, the like bigwigs, like the gangsters that kind of owned this like farmland, intentionally murdered this guy, made it as brutal as possible, and in the area also like scratched the trees and had fake footprints made of Bigfoot to put in the mud around the area.
Oh
So
my
when
gosh.
so when the guy was discovered, the people would be like, holy shit, there's Bigfoot killed my friend, and they would basically just like not be lurking around at night and like not getting into like trouble, like shit that they weren't supposed
Also,
to see,
no one would
basically.
believe them, probably.
Well, also nobody would believe them, which is like really interesting, but all like okay, on one hand that's really interesting, but on the other hand, I was watching this documentary and I was like, so there's no Bigfoot, so there's no big, like, you know what I mean? Like I was like,
Dude, that's what I hate about all that shit, especially like as a kid I loved river monsters, and then as I got older, every show like that, it's so annoying because it's like I'm watching this episode and it's like, dude, if this guy found the ancient Mongolian buttfish, I would have heard about it. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be seeing it here in this episode. So it's always like a cock tease. Dude, I don't know what is wrong with my bladder, but I will be right
okay. Trey, I know we were talking about also like the like large animals that like swim in the. Are we boring you with all this like animal cryptid talk?
No. I'm loving it.
Okay, I was like, I've heard before. Have you ever read before that there is, even though like, because blue whales are filter feeders, like they're really big, but they're slow moving, and that's pretty much what like, because they're so big, it would be difficult for them to pursue prey because it would just require too much energy. So it makes more sense for them to be kind of slow drifters that like collect food. And past that size point, I think it requires so much energy. It's hard for a megalodon to be like acceptable now that we wouldn't have discovered. But there is a room for the possibility that there is a creature that may be stationary at the bottom of the ocean that is like exceedingly large and just uses tentacles or tendrils to grab prey and like pull it down to the bottom of the ocean.
I know, I could totally see that. Like some of like the like what are they called, siphonophores, or some of the weird like sea sponge relatives and stuff, they can get huge and ginormous, like where like they're essentially just these collections of colonial cells that go on and on for like miles or something crazy, like maybe not miles, but
like
really
jellyfish,
really
right?
Jellyfish, where they're like they're colonial animals where like they're made up of a bunch of just like cells that work together. And I could see like some weird stuff down there, like and being giant, like where it's so strung out and it collects like the what do they call that, the particles of food that go down, the marine snow that falls down.
Yes, the like bits and shit. Yeah. Dude, I hate this though because I remember literally looking up a video. I don't think this was one of your videos, but I was in one of my animal autism modes and I was like, biggest marine animals, I must know. And the top one, I was so hyped because I thought it was going to be like Greenland shark or like an ancient shark they found. And it was one of these. I'm totally going to get this wrong because, again, I'm very stupid. I apologize to both of you. But it was like, I swear it was discovered recently, but it was a jellyfish that was like super huge. But like seeing it, it's like, yo, fuck this twink. This is not a big animal. Like this is totally cheating.
I know.
Like,
Right, where it's like like it goes on for hundreds of feet, but it's like it's with
a
its like
string.
couple
Yeah,
spells.
it's
Right,
like, dude,
yeah.
this is fucking stupid. Like, how can you
Yeah.
even say this is a big animal?
Well, because you expect something like you see in the dinosaur books or the videos that you used to. Oh my God! You know what I just remembered? Did you guys ever used to watch the show?
Walking with Dinosaurs?
No, well that one
Oh,
fucking
alright.
ruled
That one
too.
rock. That one,
Oh well, okay. Wait, now I got two things to ask about. Here's one thing.
Alright.
You guys have seen Future is Wild? I know I've
I
talked about that
love
before.
Future is Wild. I
What
grew
is
up on
that?
it.
Future is Wild is so fucking dope. You know what? Anybody who's watching this video this far, if anybody has a fucking link to watch Future is Wild, I used to have the DVD as a kid. I don't think I have it anymore, but it's basically, for anybody who hasn't seen it, or Zach, it's basically scientists, biologists that were predicting what animals would look like however many million years in the future in
Bro.
like 4 or 5 different
I hate these
eras.
videos, dude.
Why?
There's a dude on YouTube who does these now who's quite popular. The like, you know, what animals are going to look like in the future, or what Earth would look like, Earth creatures if we were in like a different gravitational level. I don't know. It just seems like the entire thing you're being fed is just based on the whims of whoever's making the video. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of, we would never know. So it's kind of just like whatever they can think of. I don't know.
I think they
don't let me poop on your party.
I think they do use. I want to believe that they at least consulted an actual biologist or scientist to
Future is Wild consulted, yeah, like actual biologists. Like I know, like I'm like kind of mutual friends with some of the professors and stuff that were like interviewed in it.
Oh, what? That's dope.
Yeah, they're much older than me now, but because I was like a
fucking
child.
retarded. Yeah, fucking ruined my credit.
No, like you're right that it's a lot of speculation. Like we don't know what animals are like, what type of animals are going to be like the kings of like the planet. Like because Future's Wild goes so far into the future, and like they break it up into sections, and one's like 5 million years, another one's like 10, and then I think the end's like 100 million
insane,
years,
yeah.
which is like, and then like it goes so crazy where it's like squids have colonized the land, and
yes,
and you're like, what?
Yeah. The, like,
but something like that could happen.
Yeah.
Like with enough time, like evolution is crazy. Like if you go back in time and see like what was the dominant species on Earth at that time or whatever, like it was that crazy where like fish colonized the land, like these animals that were just in the water, like developed legs and became long-necked dinosaurs that were like the size of like buildings and stuff in the matter of like, like 100 to 200 million years, something like that. Like it's not that much time in the grand scheme of things. It's crazy. Evolution's amazing.
You know, Trey, that actually makes me think of a question I wanted to ask you is like, because you have so much stuff that's like science-based and evolution-based and like archaeology, and there is some like speculative, but it's obviously highly researched, but you are also highly visible online in terms of like you have a huge following on YouTube and Twitter from what I can tell, and you know you have like a very
What's your Twitter
presence.
by the way? Trey the Explainer?
Yeah, it's at Trey_Explainer.
All right, I didn't even know you were on Twitter, bro.
At Trey_Explainer.
I'm gonna follow you too.
That's how we got
make
linked.
me blush, baby.
That's how we got linked up in the first place, is because Trey, you dropped like a dope shout out. Look, you bought my Peter Griffin shirt.
Yeah.
Dude, when you told me that, I freaked out because I was like, dude, I watched this guy's stuff.
I know,
that's
dude,
dope.
It was really funny. I mean, you posted a great like model shot of it too, because you're wearing this dope belt buckle and all this stuff, and I retweeted it, and then I had actually a bunch of people like messaging me and replying and basically saying like, "What? You guys know each other? Like, I love Trey. That's so crazy." And I was like, "Dude, that is crazy." But what I was gonna ask you was because you're so present online and there are so many stupid people online, did you ever go through a phase where you felt obligated to like argue with people who were saying like either like evolution deniers or just like like just shit like that. That's just like
I literally
Oh,
wrote
yeah.
this down.
Did
I
you?
have evolution written down because I wanted to ask about this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, like especially early on when I was younger, when I was in my teens doing this stuff,
Hmm.
like I did like I tried to like argue with the person, like I can convince this person that evolution exists. And like at a certain point you're like, oh God, like there's no arguing that. Like because I come from a really like conservative family. And I used to be a like a do you know what like a young earth creationist is? It's like
Yeah,
Yeah, you
actually, I
believe the Earth
do.
is only like 6,000 years old or something, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And like dinosaurs were on the ark and stuff. And like I grew up like that and but I loved like walking with dinosaurs and like those kind of shows. So like as a kid there was like this conflict where like these two things couldn't coexist. And I
Hmm.
guess that like is what kind of spurred me down like my to like get into science and research and stuff. Um
Dude,
yeah.
hold your thought, but not to interject, but not my parents, because my mom was a science teacher. She was pretty scientific, but all my extended family when I came to visit the States were the exact same way. Are
Ooh.
you familiar with, and I'm probably totally making this up. I don't think you did a video on him, but are you familiar with Kent Hovind?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
The amount of times my aunt made me watch that video of this fucking idiot guy like
Ken
the
Hovind.
Satan planted dinosaur bones or whatever.
What?
It's like, yeah, were you forced to watch that type of stuff?
Mine was more Ken Ham, if you know Ken Ham. He's the
Him, I'm
like
not familiar with, but is it's like a
Mhm.
similar type of
it's a
guy?
similar vibe. Ken Hovind is so funny though, because he like went to prison for like
Dude, when he got
tax
sent to
fraud.
prison, I did not shut up about it to my aunt, and she got so pissed. She's like, they're just railroading him because he's a man of God. And I was like, I think it's just because he's stealing money. I think he's a dickhead, dude.
Wow. Oh, I'm looking at the Ken Ham Wikipedia page right now. Apparently,
Oh,
he operates the Creation Museum,
he
which is in
does.
Kentucky.
Ken Ham. I kind of like have a love for Ken Ham because he's a goofy guy. Like if you try to like I love this kind of stuff and like I tried to break down like the claims in the Ark Encounter and all that to like see if they make sense.
Hmm.
He so the Ark Encounter, for people who don't know, it's in Kentucky. It's this big museum with big quotation marks around it for Noah's flood, like that Noah's flood happened and dinosaurs were on the ark and stuff like that. And I've like picked apart his timeline because it doesn't make any sense. Like within like I have to look at it exactly, but like the human population has to like boom in like a couple decades or something so that like the Egyptians can build the pyramids from like four people like a couple centuries
What?
before, it's crazy stuff like that. And he
Oh my
like
God.
yeah,
Um,
they don't really like respect like archaeology at all either. Like they don't believe in like bronze, iron, stone age, like that kind of stuff. Like humans just figured it out like in a couple decades, not like over stages gradually. It's
I know a
fun.
big thing my
damn.
aunt brought up. By the way, we're down to 4 minutes. I know it's kind of late for both you guys. Are you guys down to run it back one more time?
Yeah,
I'm cool with that. Yeah, is that cool
Okay,
with
yeah,
you,
I'm cool
Trey?
too.
because
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah,
I
definitely.
did have a big topic I wanted to get into.
Oh,
But
Oh boy.
crispy. But I remember
I
one
can't
thing
believe
my
we're down to
aunt,
3 minutes already.
dude,
Sorry.
it is
I
flying by,
it
bro.
really
yeah.
It's
is.
insane. Yeah, we definitely have to have you back on. I know. I think Harris mentioned, you're doing a face reveal soon,
Like a
but you're just
million.
saving it
I'm
at a mill,
saving it.
right? I think.
Oh, when
What
you
are you
hit a
up to? Nine
million,
hundred thousand.
dude, you're
Yeah,
very
I'm at like
close.
910K, something like that.
Congrats, brother. We're right behind you
That
at
is,
three
dude, that
point
is
one k.
fucking
I
crazy.
think
You got a million eyes on your fucking channel, man. That's
that's
something to be really
based.
proud of, dude.
Oh, thank you. It is
Uh,
crazy sometimes to think
it's
about it.
fucking crazy. Yeah. Do you
Before we
have
get
a?
off Ken
Oh,
Hovind,
sorry,
though,
sorry. Go
sorry.
ahead.
How would you? Because like a big thing my aunt always brought up is like, you know how? Well, of course you know you do this type of stuff, but you know how there's kind of layers in time, and we can tell where things are based on the layers.
Like
Mhm.
in rock?
Is that a real thing? Am
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just making
that's
that
like
up?
one of the foundations of like archaeology and paleontology is like the law of superposition, where it's like things that are beneath each other are older.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The big thing my aunt always brought up was like, well, they've found trees cutting through like multiple layers. And
Oh, polystrata trees. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I
That's
always
what
assume though that just because tectonics are constantly moving, that would cause something like that.
it
Um,
with that case, it's more like the environment. With polystrata trees, they're typically discovered in what used to be like really swampy, marshy areas. So really it's like a tree is just old and then like dirt is getting piled up over centuries around it.
mhm.
Hmm.
So it's like people like look at that and like, oh, trees are going through. That means like the flood did that, or that this is breaking the time. But it really isn't. It's more that like just trees stick out of the earth sometimes, and then like layers form around them.
So that wasn't the big punch that Kent Hovind thought it was.
No, no, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
That's
excellent.
that. Did you guys know that Butch Hartman is a New World
No way,
creationist?
dude. For
No
Yeah,
real?
way, really? Butch
he
Hartman is?
is. Yeah, the guy who
Oh
created
no.
Fairly Odd Parents. He is a
He's a
New
really big
World.
Christian. I don't know if he launched it. I in my head, I think he launched it and it failed, but he tried to launch a cartoon channel that was like just religious, like type
Yeah,
stuff or religious undertones.
no, yeah, I think he is a New World creationist, and I think that what I've heard, he signed with Nickelodeon a very lengthy contract. Like I think when he was still, I think during the Fairly Odd Parents era, because it was so successful, they had him sign some contract for something like 4 or 5 more shows, like different shows, which he is still working through. And I
God.
were the basically word on the street is that they're deeply regretful of this contract because he is a very strange man, and I think of course none of the shows are as successful. He had, well, Danny Phantom was one of them, so that was a big one, but then that was like number 2 of like 6 that he needs to get
Oh
through.
my God.
All right, I'm like 3 seltzers in, so my setup for this question is going to be terrible.
Okay,
But
let's hear it.
I guess it's a two-parter, and the first one is like a setup for the question. But when you've never gone exactly on like archeology, like dinosaur dig. You did the human one, right?
Yeah, human one.
And I was kind of surprised that you said a majority of the skeleton because, and tell me if I'm stupid,
Okay.
but am I correct in the assumption? Because I did my own research. I looked at the facts. I looked at the data. Um, is it true that a majority of dinosaur fossils that are found are like less than 25%?
I'd have to look at like the exact figures, but that's probably right. That's like probably ballpark. Like most dinosaur fossils are like very incomplete or fragmentary.
Right.
Yeah, like I'm thinking like how much was Sue? How intact? Sue's like the most intact
And that's a
Tyrannosaurus
T
Rex.
Rex,
That's a
correct?
T-Rex,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to see how
We kind of know our
90%,
stuff. We kind of know.
90% is like Sue's considered like the best, like most intact T-Rex out there.
Mhm.
And that's 90%. So like,
That's great.
yeah,
I mean, that is a lot. Think about how many bones are in like any animal. Like that, 90% is a lot. I
Well,
have
that
seen
that
I have seen Sue in person also. That one's in Chicago, I believe. Yeah, the Field
oh, that's
Museum.
dope.
I've been to that museum.
That leads me into
Pretty
my
dope.
big question that I've been wanting to ask since the beginning.
mm,
Harris and I were kind of joking that if I asked this, you were gonna think we were like fossils aren't real, like I'm Kent Hovind or something. But if that's the case, what are the chances that most fossils or like most dinosaurs, I guess, that we are seeing today aren't quite correct?
oh yeah.
Because I think you did a video on. Have you ever done a video? Or am I confusing with someone else about like fossils that were put together wrong? I swear the guy you brought up earlier, the philanthropist, did that with a few
Yeah, yeah.
fossils.
I've done like a video on like top 10. This is when I was like early on. Top 10 like add fossil reconstructions or something. Um, no, that's totally like those are like almost all of our reconstructions are like flawed to a degree. Like there's um
So that's
like
not a crazy statement.
no, that's just paleontology for you. Like a lot of
Uh,
it is just filling in gaps and using See, like most stuff is fragmentary, and we only have like parts of it. And almost all fossils, you have to fill in and speculate. Okay, like we don't have the head of this species, but we have like we know what the head of like a close relative looked like. So like odds are it probably looked like that. Um, and then that's kind of this some paleontologists in the ass when like you find more of it and you're like, oh crap, like this is not what it looks like at all. Um, like Spinosaurus is a really good example. If you know what Spinosaurus is, it's like
Yeah, it's a crazy
Jurassic
one.
Park 3.
I think I know. Let me just type it in so I'm picturing the correct thing.
You want to
I'm
hear
also
something
gonna
crazy?
I'll try to
I
show a
actually
picture of it.
I actually have, here's a little reveal. I have on my wall in front of me at all times this little
Oh my God.
Valentine's card that's a Spinosaurus. It says, "I'm a big fan." And it like turns
Oh, that's cool. It's like, oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
It's like one of those,
One of those
you
little
know.
like two flippy things. Yeah, I got those on
Now,
me.
is this the misconception? Because I just typed it in, and what I'm seeing is a completely different dinosaur. It almost stands on like two legs. Yours
Oh,
looks like
really?
So
more
what you
quadrupedal.
were holding was a Dimetrodon.
Oh, really? Well, there you
But
go.
but
What
they're
do
very
I know?
similar looking. One, they're actually like weird. So Dimetrodon is closer related to us than it is to dinosaurs. Um,
What?
yeah. Like they're on, so like they're in a weird branch that broke off. Um, so like us and dinosaurs, we like share a common ancestor, but Dimetrodon's more on like the mammal side. Like mammals evolved from like these
Oh,
reptile like, I think they're called mammal-like reptiles, and Dimetrodon is a mammal-like reptile. While Spinosaurus
interesting.
is a dinosaur, which are more like crocodile or bird-like.
Oh, that's
Not to
so
interrupt, but
crazy.
this was another question I had.
Hmm.
What are the chances? You're someone who's kind of like close with this stuff. Dude, I'm so glad you were actually like study this type of stuff, and we're all not just sitting here
Oh yeah.
speculating like out of our
Wow.
ass. But what are the chances that some of these bones we're finding are less reptilian and more mammalian, or like a mammal type creature? Or is that completely out the window due to being able to like check DNA and compare it to stuff?
Like, like that's I guess like what kind of has happened is that like we're learning that dinosaurs are more like way more bird-like than originally thought. Like, 'cause that's something that like if you go back to like the late 1800s and like mid 1900s, like most people thought dinosaurs were just like big lizards and like and they made them like they reconstructed them like that, like iguanas and like cold-blooded and stuff. And like with more and more data it's kind of like the idea of a dinosaur has shifted dramatically because now we know that like they're at least some of them were like warm-blooded and more bird-like and had like feathers and were more active and insulated and all these kinds of things. It's like more data has changed our idea of dinosaurs.
You're saying the
Um,
Democrats ruined dinosaurs.
the liberals
Democrat
ruined dinosaurs.
scientists.
Yeah, they, yeah.
The woke there was a dinosaur documentary that released lately and people were complaining about it like they made T-Rex woke like T-Rex cares about its babies and feeds them and stuff that's
Picturing it in
woke.
like a little blonde or pink wig.
Do crocodiles, do alligators and crocodiles care for their young, or do they
Yeah,
just
yeah, they
abandon them?
do.
They
They
do,
carry them
right?
in their mouth pouches and stuff like that.
Okay.
Do they do that shit that mammals and crabs do where they like eat half their babies?
Some of them do.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
like
sure they do. Dude, one
a
of the
lot
most
of
horror.
um a lot
Oh, go
of
ahead.
behavior of dinosaurs like it's speculative. Like we look at crocodiles, we look at birds and see what they do, and like there's so much about dinosaur behavior that we're never gonna know. Like people still to this day debate of like like how in the Jurassic Park movies like velociraptors like hunt in packs and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
Stay
there's
out of the tall grass.
Yeah.
it's a good scene. But there is a very little evidence that they actually hunted in packs and stuff. Like it's like it's like oh there was a footprint of of multiple velociraptors heading in the same direction in a mud track and like that's the evidence. It's like it could have just been like walking in the same direction. It doesn't mean that they're in like a group. So it's like the behavior of dinosaurs is very much like a debated topic, and odds are we'll probably never know.
This ventures into that territory I was talking about earlier where I hate speculative theories because it's like half of them are very Reddit tier, like cringe. And then the other half, it's just like, what is this? The one that comes to my head, I'm curious if you have an opinion on this, but if you've ever watched the Joe Rogan podcast, he brings this up a lot, but the like stoned ape theory, where like an ape got high, and that's like why, like, that's how our brains developed, bro. They smoked weed and listened to like Linkin Park.
Well, there can I actually add like an addendum to
Interject
that?
because I'm low
I'm
IQ.
gonna
Yes.
interject because I actually the theory is actually from Terrence McKenna, whose book I actually read Terrence McKenna's book. He's a little bit of a crackpot, but he is the one who coined the stoned ape theory,
And it
and
was
his
mushrooms, not weed, right?
yeah, but it was basically that like it was he theorizes again, this is all completely speculative, and there's no physical evidence to suggest that any of this is true, but he basically theorized that there was a dry period which drove our like a drought, which drove our ancestors out of the trees onto the ground to begin foraging for food, which is where they started eating mushrooms out of the ground, and specifically they would begin moving in packs following herd of cattle because they knew that these specific mushrooms would grow out of their shit, like out of their cow pies basically. So they would follow the herds of cattle, eat the mushrooms, which would induce these psychedelic experiences, which Terrence McKenna theorized that over hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, like generations of time, may have like permanently altered human consciousness like during that time, and made way for like culture and language and like things like that. That he writes about it a little bit, and like Joe Rogan brings it up. Terrence McKenna is a really nutty dude. He's really interesting, but yeah, that is the stoned ape theory as I understand it.
I'm not familiar with stoned ape theory. I'm like,
Oh, I'm shocked you never heard about that, bro. That's pretty popular and like well, I was about to say it's pretty popular in that like for scientists and archaeologists, but you are one and haven't heard of it, so I'm literally
Sorry,
talking out of
apparently
my
not.
ass, dude.
it's
Yeah.
not one of the theories that you're taught in like in university classes.
Yeah.
'Cause there's like several like there's probably like 10 or more plus probably tons of like different theories of human evolution, what drove us to start using tools, and all kinds of stuff. And like at the end of the day, like a lot of these hypotheses are like untestable.
Hmm.
Like people come up with these theories, but there's no way to really test which one or if any are going to be are real or what really happened,
Hmm.
um, which is hard. I don't know, like I don't want to poo-poo on it, but like it's like because there's like so many like kind of think like gosh like stoned ape theory. I should like go through my notes and stuff, but like a lot of them are like kind of overly simplistic too. Like they break down like human evolution to like just a couple variables in like
Hmm.
a line. And like I don't know, like most things in nature are way more complex and there's like things built on top of each other. Uh I don't know, like it's definitely interesting. Like coming up with these theories and reading them is really interesting. But sometimes like we can only like talk about them to a certain point. Um yeah.
I get
Dude,
that.
not to sound I'll be the fucking stupid idiot of the podcast.
No, you're good.
I'll be the Kent Hovind, bro. But
Yeah.
evolution, how correct is my definition kind of evolution if I say I'll use the finch as an example, because I know that's like a big thing in the Galapagos, like that Darwin discovered, like all the different finches.
Hmm.
And a lot of them had like different beaks that were more attuned to collecting different type of prey or nuts. Um, so in theory, you have a population of finches, and there's a type of nut on the island that, let's say, requires a very big, strong jaw to
Hmm.
crack. Um, the finches that already have strong jaws will continue to breed because they're able to crack it open, and then through that they would develop an even more strong jaw. Is that like an idiot's concept of evolution?
Kind of like it's not like they're developing like a stronger jaw, like just randomly through mutation, like a stronger jaw may appear in like in the population. and then like it would shift again, like favor the even stronger jawed like birds. Like it's like I think like the mix up that a lot of people have is that like what's guiding evolution is like just random chance a lot of the time. Like a mutation just caused by like, I don't know, you're staying out in the sun too long or something. And like you pass down to your children that have like slightly bigger beak. That's just a random chance event that happened. And then like the population will shift, like where you were right. You're like, that's a really good explanation of it where like
I
the
feel like
bigger
you're
beak.
complimenting a 3-year-old when you said
No,
that.
no, oh,
That's
sorry. I didn't,
good. No.
no, it's good. No, like because evolution, it's like people I think over explain evolution. I'm bad. I'm like bad. I ramble and stuff. But yeah, it's a very simple like concept where it's like, yeah, like something appears in the population just by random chance, and then it increases in prevalence over several generations when it's like shown to be favorable. And like when something like a trait's favorable, it allows something to live longer and pass down more offspring. So the population like shifts to that trait. Yes, it increases in popularity in proportion.
What would you say to someone? Because here's my issue, and I'm not an anti-evolution guy. I really don't want to give that idea off. I'm more considering me more playing devil's advocate. But well, I guess you did mention when you were talking about it, there's a chance aspect. It's chance.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it. Hopefully you have. It goes viral on Twitter like every 2 weeks, but it's a video of the evolution from like a dog type mammal to whale.
Oh yeah, yeah, like
Oh
Pakicetus
yeah.
and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Is it literally just chance that a random whale, or I guess it's a dog at first? Because this seems so weird to me, dude. It's like so hard for me to wrap my head around it, and I get that like I'm not a smart man, but
No, but wait, but you that's like not how that's not what happens in the video. Like it's not like it just turns into a whale.
no,
I mean,
there's
it does
multiple
turn into a
stages.
whale.
It's like
Yeah.
Pokemon, but that's
It's
the
It's like
very
Pokemon.
it's
that's the
very
thing I have an
gradual.
issue
Like
with, where it's like, but I guess if it's up to, it's just like by chance this creature has a mutation where it can now hold its water longer or breathe water. Not whales
it's a
don't
very
breathe water.
gradual thing where like I don't know, like and it would be indistinguishable to members of like individual members of that species. Like it would be like just a very small gradient change, and then over generations it kind of builds up. Um, like with the whale example, like the whale evolution, like from like dog to like I guess like humpback whale or something like that. That's like a very long thing, and like and at no point does like a dog just give birth to like another dog with like a tail, or something. Like it's very minor. Like okay, the dog gave birth to at the very beginning, dog gave birth to like a dog that had like slightly more webbing in between its paws or something like that. This is all like hypothetical.
Real quick though,
Hmm.
that webbing is through chance,
Yeah, like just through mutation, like people like some people are born with like I don't know, like slightly bigger lungs or something, lung capacity,
right?
like
Like
by just
Phelps has the fucking albatross
right,
fucking
right.
arm length.
And
Yeah.
if Phelps is swimming from a predator or able to catch more fish or something that gives him a like a selective advantage to have more kids, then like he's gonna pass down his slightly longer wingspan to his children, and that'll be passed down. And it's a very like gradual incremental thing where like you wouldn't be able to see the major changes if you were just looking at it on the individual level. But if like you saw like okay, after like 500 generations from like point A for Michael Phelps to like his like 1 millionth descendant, after this gradual process, like there's going to be a distinct kind of change that's developed over that time, I guess.
Well, here's the thing though.
Hmm.
Would it be safe to theorize, in your opinion, that humans will no longer evolve because the age we live in, it's no longer like ung bung, me must mate with strongest caveman, he protect me. You know what I mean? You have
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
like Phelps, for instance. We're talking about someone with a huge wingspan who's amazing at swimming. That doesn't
Mhm.
mean his wife is going to be the same. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Um, But if we were in theory to continue evolving into like a swimming beast, it would be like Phelps marrying a female Phelps and then just like following that genetic line.
Yeah, like humans are still undergoing evolution. Just like we selectively mate with certain people all the time, and like
Latinas.
That's
Latinas.
true. Well, we're also taller now than we even were like 1,000 years ago, basically. I mean, that's
But from
different.
my understanding, that's not an evolution type thing. That's a
It's more
nutrient.
dietary.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And if
that's
you
super
look, it's kind
interesting.
of funny. Like if you look at hunter-gatherers from like the Ice Age, they were like like not as tall, but they were roughly like the average height, like 5'10" or something like that.
Hmm.
And then when humans started living in cities and stuff, it dipped down because people generally just got bad nutrition. Uh, and then now
Interesting.
it's only like post-industrial age we're actually returning to like our average height of like our Ice Age ancestors. It's kind of funny.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah. I
They were
remember
just they had
reading.
less stress and more nutrition and
That
stuff.
makes more sense. Yeah. I remember reading something when I was a kid. I don't even know where, but it was something along this line where it was like predicting the future of human evolution, and there was some theory that was literally like, even as a kid I read this and I was like, wow, what the fuck? It was literally predicting that the human race would literally branch off into, it would split between there, all of a sudden we would have this race of humans that was just like beautiful, like just all of the because all the beautiful people are gonna like, keep fucking and then having kids, and those kids are gonna be gorgeous and tall, and so you just like, a few thousand or a million years down the line, you just have these like gorgeous people, and then you have these like troll-like people that are all the ugly people, presumably like mating with each other to make this just like
Who did you
short.
say said this?
This was I read this like,
Is it
I'm
H.G. Wells? Is it the Time Machine?
I'm maybe I gotta find this, but I remember reading it when I was still like in elementary school or
Dude, it's
something and being
interesting
like,
you say that, and I'm
what?
wondering if it's based on this study. But are you guys both familiar with? I think his name was Calhoun, and I think if anyone's, this is a really interesting topic. I really recommend watching the Down
The
the Rabbit
rat
Hole video.
experiments, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
they kind of branched off into the beautiful rats that became like agender, and then
Yeah.
there were like
Oh
these
yeah.
disgusting, almost Italian type rats that did all the work. You know,
Oh,
uh
I love that guy's videos.
yeah.
I've like modeled my videos kind of somewhat off of his
No, I
because I just like
totally
his
get the,
presentation.
yeah, I totally get the same vibe from both of you guys. Yeah, he's both of you guys pick really interesting topics too. I think he specifies in like more, I mean, well, that video isn't an example of this, but I feel like he has a good little niche where he talks about like weird forgotten internet things, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like things that have kind of like weird things that happen on the internet that are, you can now like look back at like retroactively. But you have a great thing on your channel because you like focus on, I was telling Zach, like, I like the shit on your channel is like the shit that's all the shit that I like dinosaurs, unsolved mysteries, cryptids. What else?
based,
It's yeah, it's just
absolutely
fucking
based content,
based
Trey.
shit. Yeah,
It's very
it's so
Thank
nice.
you.
true.
I'm
Um,
doing a video that's coming up. It's going to be ancient Marvel humor or something.
oh,
Marvel?
really?
Yeah, where I'm like gonna like like Marvel humor, like, oh, he's right behind me, isn't he? And then
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna look at like, okay, do ancient cultures and like hunter-gatherers have that type of humor? Is that like
Oh, that's cool.
universal? And the short of it is that I'm finding, yes, that stupid humor is constant throughout human history, and it's so dumb.
Dude, you call
That's
it
awesome.
stupid humor, but boomer dad humor is the pinnacle, bro. My
Oh, boomer
ex-wife,
dad.
kill my wife.
Wait,
It's just
I was actually gonna say, who, here's a question for you. Maybe Trey, you already know this, but what's the oldest documented fart joke?
Fart joke. Ooh.
I know Canterbury Tales has a fucking ton.
There's a lot of Greek plays have fart jokes, like ancient Greek plays from like the 300s BC. They love their freaking fart jokes. Like
Hell
they,
yeah.
it's just like there's probably even older ones. I'm assuming it's probably like Sumerian or something. Um
That's such like a
like
human thing.
yeah,
Uh,
Sumerian fart joke.
I
I'm
know
looking this up.
even when I went to Bali, they do this thing that's called And I don't think they just do it in Bali, but it's called like I'm totally gonna forget the name, but it's something like shadow plays, where they
Mm.
create these shadow figures out of like cardboard cutouts, and they're like the actors.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and they would do all the old school, like these were the old documents we found of like the oldest plays, and 99% of it was like a fat guy like walking out and just farting on another guy, and I was like, "This is dope, dude!
Banger,
Like,
banger,
banger,
yeah.
bro, yo."
Dude, it is crazy how some of these jokes, like things like fart jokes, or the he's right behind me, isn't he? Like that shit is like, dumb jokes. Just they're always going to land. Like it's always gonna land. I mean, it's like, it's funny how it feels like more of a modern thing where now it's just like, oh, that's lowbrow humor, but it's like it's
It's
still
humor for the
funny.
masses, bro. It's like how when you buy spicy food, if you like spicy food and you get something that's spicy, it's not quite spicy enough. It's because they're making it at a spice level where the majority of people can enjoy it. But
Yes.
if you're like not part of the unwashed masses, you're kind of like, this is Reddit. This is
That
not
did,
spicy enough.
that
This
did
is
just
right.
happen to me. That did just happen to me the other day. I have this Indian restaurant that I order from really frequently that's so fucking good. And I always ask them because they ask when I order, I order a variety of things over the phone, like with them, but they always ask how spicy, and it's on a scale of 1 to 10. And I like spicy food, so I usually say 6 or 7 because I'm hoping that they'll, you
You
know,
got to do 10, baby.
crank it
You got to
up.
do 10.
But every time it feels like they're kind of holding out on me. Like it's not, I'm like, come on, this isn't 7. Like I want to be like, I want my nose to be running and just like
Dude,
you
I
know what I
think
mean?
a
It's like,
lot of Indian and especially Thai or more like Asian places, I don't know, Harris, did you ever go to the Thai restaurant at the college we went to?
I don't remember that. I
They
don't
had a
think
Thai
so.
restaurant and they had the sliding scale level 1 to 10, and they had a separate menu for Asian people with an
Yeah,
entirely different spice level. And
that's
it's
Wow.
like
awesome.
you had to ask, it was either you could have a 10 white person or a Thai 10.
That's
And it was,
awesome.
yeah, it was like 3 million times
But that's
spicier.
what I'm asking is I'm asking for the Indian. Well, I'm asking for an Indian 7. Like that's just
Yeah.
like I like. But what did happen was this last time that I just got it. I think the guy recognizes me now because I always order with him over the phone, and I think the guy was like, "Okay, I got you, bro. I
Give him
got
the
you,
good stuff. Give
bro."
him the
This
good
last
stuff.
time that I ate it, it was that just like, like just like dying,
I
like
like that, bro. Gives
so
you a
hot, but it was
fucking
so good. Like I'm gonna request it again next
bro.
time.
We do have. I have to get to this last question before we forget it. I don't want our patrons to cry.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, sure.
All right, Trey, are you familiar with the Set animal from Egypt?
That like oh, I'd have to look.
Let me see
That
if it's Googleable, and then you can Google.
what
Let
is
me
that?
see.
that yeah.
Oh, when I look up
Yes,
set
yes, yes.
animal, it says Egypt.
It
Oh, it does
is
pop up. Okay.
the
So the
Oh,
question is, what do you think it's supposed to be? Me looking at it right away, I'm assuming it's like a dog.
looks like a dog.
Looks like a Saluki.
yeah, I'd say I have to look into like Egyptian mythology. Yeah, it looks like a dog or like a jackal or something.
What the fuck is a
Interesting.
jackal? I've heard that fucking throughout my life. Are they like hyenas?
They're like fox dog kind of.
Oh, whoa. Oh, they're like coyotes.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that this was a thing that like set how it's depicted as an animal as an enigmatic creature, a beast not identified by any with any known animal. Oh, that's
That is
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, that's crazy.
It
It's
could just be like a mythical one.
yeah.
But it's not very if it's a mythical creature, it's not particularly
Creative.
creative. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind
exactly.
of like it looks like it could just be a dog.
This was the
Yeah.
first case of someone doing a Sonic OC where it's literally just
Yeah,
Sonic but like
the
pink, and they're like,
first ever
"No, I
Sonic
came up
OC.
with it." Dude, there
Yeah.
was a kid in my high school who we were taking some sort of animal course, and we started talking about llamas, and the kid's eyes got so wide. He was my best friend Gunner. I was talking about with Daft this earlier, where like people who smoke weed at a young age, it really does fuck up their IQ, and I'm convinced that would happen here. But we're talking about llamas, and his eyes got super wide, and I'm like, Gunner, what's going on? and he goes, "Dude, I always thought those were mythical creatures."
Oh,
And I was like,
God.
"No, dude, they're
Oh,
very much real."
they are real. Dude, I was just rewatching this video that's like you guys have seen this. It's a classic YouTube video where it's like
Guy in jar.
no, it was like
Okay, yeah, that one's rough. That one's rough.
it's the two escaped llamas that like got out of like a petting zoo or something in like Arizona, and there's like a helicopter, like a cam that's like following them as they're like running through the streets of Arizona, like and there's like groups of people in the neighborhood trying to like corral them, but they keep like they'll like hop a fence and then they're like free again. And I just looked it up and it's 7 years ago, and it just makes me wonder. I'm really afraid to look up what the llama lifespan is because I want to believe that they're both alive.
They're still alive still.
They're alive somewhere.
They
Let's see,
see
how
in my
long
head they live a long time.
Oh yeah, they live in captivity for up to 25 years and a maximum of 28. So that happened 7 years ago. I'm gonna assume they were probably only a few years because they were very spry in that video. So I'm gonna say they're probably both still good. But it's a
Yeah,
great video.
We're down to 3 minutes. I'll ask my last question. We'll wrap up. And then,
Okay.
Harris, if you got a last one, I'll make mine quick. But speaking of lifespans, is there anything, Trey, that interests you as a geneticist about the Greenland shark with how long it
Oh, yeah.
lives? It makes me feel good that I have a disorder where, and I swear to God, I'm not lying. I know everyone who says this, they don't actually mean it, but I do have low metabolism. But is there anything that interests you there? Because from my understanding, their metabolism is so slow that they're able to live like 500 years, which is fucking insane to me.
Yeah,
That's
right.
really-
Oh no, it's just funny. I wrote my college essay about like how I'm gonna cure, like I'm gonna cure humans' immortality with my research in the Greenland shark.
Oh, hell
I,
yeah.
That's
after
awesome.
several years, it did not happen.
Didn't
I'm nowhere
happen.
closer. No, but it's so fascinating. Like I love like talking about things that just like live a long time. Like I don't know, have you ever heard of Ming the clam?
No.
His name is
No.
Ming. He's this clam. He's the oldest clam ever. Ming the
You got
clam.
me
How old is
Googling. I have like literally 40 windows open of me Googling shit that we've
Does
mentioned on
his
this.
does his species live super long, or is this clam like super
Oh my
just
God.
rare?
he's a quahog clam. He's from Quahog. He's named after
Holy
him.
How did we
shit.
not name him Peter Griffin? How did we not
Is
name this
is
clam Peter Griffin?
Dude,
2006.
dude,
With family. Like it was a thing. Yeah.
he was determined to be 507 years old.
It's
Jesus
like measuring the rings
Christ.
on him and stuff
Dude,
or something.
I have to ask, just because we have a genius on the pod. I know we have a minute 30 seconds left. How true is carbon dating? I know this is one of those things where it's like we can't really know for sure, but is it the scientific consensus where it's like we're pretty close, we can tell pretty closely just based on carbon?
Yeah, I'd say carbon dating's pretty legit. Like the thing is, like scientists don't ever use like one single dating method. Like they layer stuff on top of each other.
And do they
Like there's like
usually add
uranium.
up to the same types of
Yeah,
numbers? Okay.
yeah, they do. They like the thing is with when carbon dating was like first like introduced, like it was tried out, they used like stuff that had known ages. Like they tested like the wood of like Egyptian pharaohs' coffins that had like dates inscribed on them, or trees where we knew like the timeline based on like the rings. And they typically like line up within like 20 to 30 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And then like there's other dating methods that they layered because like there's other chemicals that you can test like uranium or potassium. There's other stuff, and they cross confirm each other. So I'd say it's pretty legit.
All right.
That's awesome. Well, listen, we're about to run out of time here, but hey,
Bro,
Trey,
thank you for coming
so
on.
This
Oh,
was
much,
of
man.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
this
was
is
Thank
a
you for
a
blast.
having me.
great
This has been
episode.
awesome.
I would love to run this back.
Bro, hit a
Hopefully-
mill. We can bring you on with your face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be
Oh yeah,
great.
yeah.
That'd be
No,
great.
this has been awesome. I'm honored to be on here. You guys are great.
Hell yeah, you too, dude. We'll talk again soon. We'll hit you up and then let's run this one back.
Harris, you got a joke to end us with?